Good morning. Welcome to the Kaneohe County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's February 6th for our first meeting of the month, and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd like to welcome everybody here today, and we probably have some visitors online. We usually do. We have a pretty full agenda today, so we'll get right down to business. The first item of business today is to approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Berg moves for approval of the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. In your packet, you received the consent agenda, and in the consent agenda is the approval of legal and Compass County Board minutes from January 16th, the approval of the auditor warrants and claims, a gambling permit application for Little Crow Junior Golf Foundation, I believe that's a renewal, and then the 2024 pawn shop license renewal for the Wilmer Trading Post. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Commissioner Gardner moves on the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, under general business discussion updates, we have a Prime West grant for caregiving coaching purchase of services contract. This is an action item. So Caroline and Constant, you're going to talk to us about this grant. And for the record, as you've heard me say before, state your name and who you represent.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Caroline Kahn. I have the opportunity to serve as the Health and Human Services Director for Kaneohe County. And this morning, I've invited Constance Nelson, one of our Children's Services Supervisors, to tell you about an important grant that she's written to Prime West and how that grant will impact the children's services programs that we offer here at Kaneohe County.
Good morning.
Good morning. As previously stated, I am Constance Nelson, one of 3 Children's Services Supervisors, and I am here to talk about the Community Reinvestment Grant that we acquired through Prime West dollars this morning. Children or youth that require additional resources and supports can place a cost and burden on the limited resources available in Greater Minnesota. Prime West and Kaneohe County can jointly work to improve Prime West members' healthcare experiences by aiding some of the most vulnerable right here in our rural community. This project will ultimately reduce their future reliance on systemic interventions such as child protection involvement, mental health crisis placements, medication costs, substance use, and even incarceration. Kaneohe County was allocated nearly $112,000, and use of the money will depend largely on the number of children in or at imminent risk of out-of-home placement, utilizing this program over the next 3 years. Research shows that children at imminent risk of out-of-home placement, foster care, or already living in foster care have experienced trauma. Trauma may come in the form of neglect or abuse, resulting in involvement with the child protection or child welfare system, but also could include one or more adverse childhood experiences. You've probably heard the term ACEs previously. Children and youth who don't feel close to their parents or caregivers and feel like they can't talk to them about their feelings, families with caregivers who have a limited understanding of children's needs or child development, low levels of education, and experiencing high levels of parenting or economic stress. Families with inconsistent discipline, structure, nurture, and consistency in their households are a few common examples of how children experiencing adverse childhood experiences can be set up for failure if their caregivers aren't equipped to help them through those negative experiences. The more of these ACEs a child has experienced, the more likely they are to suffer with chronic health problems, mental illness, substance use in adulthood, and the more trauma a child has experienced, the less their bodies and minds are able to regulate, to maintain in family living settings, mainstream classroom environments, and thrive in activities normal for their peers. ACEs can have lasting negative effects on health, well-being in childhood and life opportunities, such as education and job potential well into adulthood. These experiences can increase the risks of injury, sexually transmitted infections, maternal and child health problems, teen pregnancy, pregnancy complications, fetal death, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, suicide, the list goes on and on. ACEs are or can be forms of extended or prolonged toxic stress, affecting children's brain development, immune systems, stress response functions well into adulthood. They struggle forming healthy and stable relationships and struggle with regulating emotions for years without adequate healing. When these unhealed children are dysregulated, they often have behaviors. Fight or flight types of behaviors are more typically understood, but any and all of these responses are trauma behaviors. When children have behaviors, they can cause disruption to themselves and those around them. One example is a parent might send a child who is dysregulated and acting out to timeout, send them to their bedrooms because they're grounded, or a school might have a child leave the classroom. The system removes these children and places them in more isolative environments, even though the intentions of these system interventions are well-meaning. Each disruption, in turn, adds more risk to the child's ability to trust adults and develop healthy attachments, which in turn places them at higher risk of future medical and mental health treatments. Of course, that means money, right? More cost to Candy, Ojai County. Caregiver coaching can aid caregivers thrust into new or challenging parenting roles to parent more effectively, combat the effects of ACEs and trauma, and ultimately help these children heal. Healing and helping caregivers grow children's resilience can set children up to be more successful adult members of society, lessening the financial and systemic burden on our bottom line. Coaching will take place in the child's home and/or via interactive video. It will also include technical assistance, phone calls, consultations, emails, and support group day camp of sorts. Our coaches are either licensed mental health professionals or supervised mental health practitioners that will utilize attachment-based, trauma-informed, trust-based relational intervention, or TBRI, strategies with their caregivers. The trust-based relational intervention is a unique model created by developmental psychologists Dr. Karen Purvis and Dr. David Cross, who coach families through real-life problem-solving scenarios. They demonstrate proven practical skills and strategies for applying TBRI principles of empowering, connecting, and correcting to everyday life to build a stronger parent-child connection, which leads to better behavior. And again, positively affects that bottom line. A colleague of mine, Tina Magas, has already championed several previous grants to bring TBRI training to this community for parents, caregivers, foster parents, teachers, childcare providers, school personnel, and many others. This project gives us the opportunity to take TBRI education to the next level. New caregivers will have a caregiver stress index completed with them or by the coach. This assessment will objectively measure the amount of stress caregivers are self-reporting, experiencing at different stages of the out-of-home placement of these children, initially before caregiver coaching begins and during and after. We can also look at the number of additional disruptions that do or ideally do not occur with caregiver coaching implemented, and we can use this grant as a pilot program then to establish future integration of caregiver coaching into our care of families in the Child Services Department. Questions about anything?
Any questions for Constance? Did I see your hand go up, Commissioner Gardner?
Almost.
I wasn't seeing things,
But
okay.
let me give it a shot if I may. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Constance, good morning, and thank you for this. So I'm just, first of all, seeking a little clarification. Is the funding for strictly for out-of-home placement and foster families, or is this within the family as well? I'm looking at this caregiver stress index on the screen here, and the first question is, I feel overwhelmed by the responsibilities of being a parent. That would almost suggest to me that that's a question for the actual parent. I'm a little confused as to how that's used.
So ultimately, the program will be prioritized for children that are already in foster care placement.
Okay.
However, we would love to offer this to any families that are already involved with our Child Services Department. So that could be children that are at imminent risk of placement, not yet in foster care, but are experiencing all of the preceding factors that could lead to that out-of-home placement. So this would open up this caregiver coaching to our voluntary services, children's mental health, child welfare as well.
Okay, that's the clarification that I was looking for. When we talk about adverse childhood experiences, those who are in tough family situations, I mean, we can't underestimate what the struggle is for them. You know, as someone who grew up in such a household, something like this would have been invaluable to me and my family. So I thank you for this, and I thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Other questions? Corky, did you have?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Excellent presentation. I appreciate the update. We heard this has taken place, and I think it's so fortunate that we did get involved with Prime West, and these grants were made available. And I commend you in such a short notice that you were able to put something together. And I understand this is going to start then probably after we sign the contract. Right?
Correct.
So we'll be up and running and then get some feedback after that. My other question is, this sounds very unique, and how did you come up with this model for this grant, or is it being used some other places as well? Because it's something that looks like it'd be very valuable.
A lot of my information here comes from the TBRI training model of Dr. Karen Purvis and her colleagues. And a very unique thing that they have done in their Texas Christian University model of care, utilizing TBRI, is a camp. Now, I can't pretend that we have the capacity to do a week-long camp in the same way that they did. However, utilizing some of the same strategies that Dr. Purvis and Cross used in training up these caregivers who are trying to parent children from hard places in supportive environments, offering the training, education, technical assistance, but also the support of others that are experiencing the same difficulties in their household. At the same time, also providing more one-on-one and group support and training to the children themselves in a camp-type model. And then bringing both groups together so that they can hopefully implement these parenting strategies in a really seamless way in their own households. And helping caregivers understand that traditional parenting that works for neurotypical kids that have not experienced trauma or ACEs, doesn't always work. And in fact, rarely does it work. And so these caregivers don't necessarily understand what they encounter by now having to parent these kiddos that have these unique struggles. And so they have to adapt, and they have to adapt quickly in order to maintain a lot of disruption.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Khan?
I would like to not undersell Constance's innovation here. Constance took the lead. Yes, these are models that exist out there, but when this opportunity came forward, she stepped forward and took ideas that were out in the world and figured out how are we going to do those in Candy, Ojai County. So when you ask, is this something that's being done? Yes and no. It is being done, but it hasn't been being done here, and it's not being done in rural communities. So I don't want to undersell her
Great.
efforts and innovation here either, because I think that especially as the model in out-of-home placement pivots to family placements and people that might not have woke up today deciding that they wanted to care for a child that wasn't their own, then this opportunity will help increase their capacity and supports as well. So I think that this has a lot of opportunity in the future, and I'm excited to watch her ideas continue to grow.
Administrator Baker, did you have something?
Well, Caroline stole my thunder there. I was gonna, just kudos to Constance. This was when I was the interim and we were kind of making sure things were flowing smoothly. And I would echo Commissioner Berg's comment on the Prime West with Candy, Ojai going into Prime West. This was a great opportunity with the reinvestment grant. And I just want to mention that what Constance did with this was truly out of the box thinking, because a lot of the counties applied for eligibility funding within our income maintenance division. And we were one of the few counties that did not submit a grant for those dollars. And then about 2 months after we submitted the grant, or a month after, counties found out that they couldn't double dip with receiving funds for another eligibility worker. And we were okay because we had already done our out of the box thinking. Kudos to Constance on that. And we were able to secure the dollars for this contract. And I think, like she said, Tina has done something similar with this, and I think Candy, Ojai County is moving forward in strides by doing something like this within the climate of our Children's Services Division.
Just a follow-up question. The sustainability of this, and the grant is a one-year grant, right? And it can be
Yeah, the money can be utilized up to 3 years.
up to 3 years, okay.
Yeah, so the sustainability of a grant is always the question, right?
Yeah.
Grants in and of themselves are a tremendous amount of work to implement. My hope is that we can treat this caregiver coaching grant as a pilot of sorts. And if the pilot is as successful as I think it will be, then we can already, and we have already had conversations with some of our mental health professionals in the community. Can we make it a more substantial model with what we're already using with, say, in-home contracts?
Thank you.
So I think some of you have heard me use this number before. It's going to be close, might not be perfect, but Supreme Court Justice Ann McKeague, Minnesota Supreme Court Justice, at a presentation I was at maybe 2 years ago now, said that 83% of all people involved in the criminal justice system experience an adverse childhood experience. Might have only been one. And so it's hugely critical. And I assume that the next item on the agenda, the contract with someone, is that they're trained in this TB, whatever you call it. But my question is, in corrections, they often use the term evidence-based practices. Is there pretty good evidence about the success of these programs?
There's a tremendous amount of information out there, and in my grant write-up, I have some sources that are linked that would provide evidence of the success of treating ACEs in a prevention-style method to bolster the resilience factors of these children and families, as well as the TBRI model of care.
Sure. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Then, do you want to move right into the contract?
Yep, correct. So what I have before you then is the contract of the purchase of service with Ms. Sarah Barber to provide the services outlined in the identified grant through Prime West. So do you want me to read the description or?
Just
Yeah, so
summarize it, yeah.
Would be providing the trauma-informed, trust-based relationship intervention services targeted for foster care, caregivers and children in youth and out-of-home placement, a minimum of 2 to 4 early intervention supportive coaching sessions immediately upon placement and deemed imminent risk of placement, and caregiver have the option to extend sessions based on families' individualized needs in response for programming.
So you all received this contract in your packet, had a chance to take a look at it. Is there any questions for Ms. Khan regarding the contract?
No, I just assumed that the county attorney had a chance to run over it and make sure that. Oops.
Then perhaps we can still entertain a motion contingent on
Contingent.
review by the county attorney.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chair, I so move to approve this contract.
Commissioner Berg moves on the approval of the contract with Sarah Barber for providing these services contingent on the contract being approved by the county attorney. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Next on the agenda is the Kaneohe County, Renville County, Minnesota Statewide Health Improvement Partnership information item, and we have maybe a couple of presenters here, starting with Caroline, who can remain at the podium, and Jeff, you want to work your way up? And one presenter called in sick today. so,
Correct. I apologize. I'm going to try and get this
No
ready for
worries.
him here briefly. Would you like me to introduce myself again?
If you wish.
Okay. Again, I'm Caroline Kahn. I have the opportunity to serve as the Health and Human Services Director for Kandiyohi County. And this morning, we have invited our SHIP, which is a collaborative effort between with our CHB and Kandiyohi and Renville counties. Unfortunately, as mentioned, our Kandiyohi County representative is ill today, but Jeff Philippek is here to share about the SHIP program and their annual update. Jeff?
Thanks for the opportunity to visit with you today.
Welcome. And you, for the record, state your name and who you're representing.
Jeff
Even though you were introduced.
Yep, Jeff Philippek, Kandiyohi Renville SHIP. So I'm half of the SHIP team. Our office in Renville and Brittany office is here, but we do joint projects in both counties. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. Up on the screen is our new logo. We actually did that about a year and a half ago, kind of better represents kind of the work that we do. And we are Kandiyohi Renville SHIP.
Maybe we should start with what SHIP stands for. We get a lot of, there you go.
There you go.
And I'm not sure everybody who is listening can see what we're seeing.
Okay. Well, SHIP stands for the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership. So essentially, we support community-driven solutions. Our areas are active living, healthy eating, tobacco prevention, and well-being. So over the last 3 years, we've done about $150,000 in grants to a variety of community groups, nonprofits, in Kandiyohi and Renville. I think more importantly, our work is kind of centered around building relationships, connecting different partners. So partners in change, that's the thing that we really want to do. Sometimes the cruelty, I think, of grants is that people get a grant, start off a terrific program, community really loves it, the grant goes away. They try to hang on to the grant sometimes, and eventually the program goes away. We do not want to see that with our programming. So we look for programs that are going to be sustainable, have some good community leadership so they can make some positive changes in their community. Here's our 4 context areas: healthy eating, active living, tobacco-free, and well-being is a new context area for us in the last year. In our areas, we work in community, healthcare groups, schools, workplace. I think a lot of our work has been centered in community work. And we want to try to make policy, system, and environment changes, something that's sustainable over time. So I'm going to kind of rifle through these fairly quickly. We'll if you maybe take some questions at the end, because we have a lot of projects we did in the last year. Brittany took the lead on starting the Robbins Island Farmers Market. That was a couple years ago. They do the Power of Produce program. That's where any youth 4 to 12 get a token to go buy some fresh fruits and vegetables. So that's been positive, good addition. And they've, I think the thing about farmers markets, it's been a lot of fresh produce, but post-COVID, I think the farmers markets have been beneficial because people are getting out and visiting. It was kind of the first thing people started to do. So you can't underestimate the community connections when you go to some of our farmers markets. Renville, we got actually 4 different cities we're working with, Power Produce program there, Veggie RX program with Olivia Hospital, bunch of good things happening in Renville with farmers markets. Brittany's been really involved in some food service trainings. You can see 4 different schools we worked with. They hosted at McRae this past year. Keep going quickly. This has been a fun project, and this is where we really see sustainable partners here. We have one of our teachers here is an ag teacher and just really a go-getter. We love working with people like this. So she wanted to start a hydroponics garden. You can see that in the photo. It's been a good teaching tool for her students, but in addition, they take the produce and they use it in the school salad bar. So that was a success. They started an outdoor garden this year. We sent a bunch of students to the Arboretum for a school garden conference. Outdoor education days in Renville Parks, got a bunch of different partners that come out for the day, and there's a couple hundred students from the schools come out. Brittany and I led a geocaching event there. Again, more programs that Brittany's really been involved with, some of the farm to school things here in Wilmer Public Schools. Also, I think the schools kind of get wind of what's happening in other schools, and the BOLD project led to a similar project at ECGC. We've been doing standing desks, both in Candy Ohio and Renville County, get people up and moving. A lot of involvement with Wilmer Bikes. If you ever kind of tool around a lot of the signage, directional signage, we helped in the beginning with the bike share, so heavy involvement with Wilmer Bikes. Also helped support a Bike Minnesota workshop with community education recently. Trail signage, a lot of trail signage. Renville County Parks now have a whole system of signs for people able to get around a little bit easier and navigate all the great trails in their county parks. We've been doing some flashing pedestrian signs. This is a lot of work that's connected to safe routes to schools. Olivia, Renville, and Raymond, there's some highways that go through there. People don't always slow down on key intersections on 212 and 71, so we partnered up with some of those signs. Candy Ohio County, you probably already know, did their super shelf transformation a couple years ago. Currently, Renville County is going through that as well. If you don't know what a super shelf is, it's more of a grocery style experience, more of a dignified experience, more of an emphasis on healthy eating. There's a lot of thought put into having vegetables right when people walk in, and kind of the lesser high fat foods kind of in the back. So Renville is currently wrapping up theirs. We do a lot of work with Extension, did a Children's Garden and Residence program, and they got to display their goods at the Renville County Fair. Love to do more work like this. We did this at Bethesda in New London. Really a great program. If we have any senior centers out there, we'd love to do more of that. I had a lot of retired farmers coming in to these retirement communities, and just a little bit of getting their fingers in the dirt kind of goes a long way. A lot of community gardens lately. Partnered with Franklin. They did a whole garden with a lot of different partners. City of Fairfax did the same thing. Buffalo Lake, we've done some work there before. We did some additional signage with Buffalo Lake. And some of my favorite projects, I think Brittany's as well, is getting involved in larger projects. We've been doing a lot of active living plans. Olivia, Renville, and we're involved with Buffalo Lake right now. Also involved with the City of Spicer Comp Plan. So that usually involves some SHIP funding to help bring the MMDC in, and then we provide some technical assistance on those plans. So those you really can get into some policies, some environment changes when you dig deep in some of these plans. And,
Excuse me.
Yep.
Do you want questions? Can we take
Sure,
questions?
go ahead.
Oh, can you expand a little bit more on the Spicer Comp Plan?
Sure. So again, we provided the funding for MMRDC to come in, and they come in and look at all aspects of the city. They'll look at recreational things, housing, childcare, and they'll put a comprehensive plan for the community kind of moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep,
Other questions? Thank you.
I know, I'm going fast. Love working with Mel, because Mel gets things done. Same thing here. We help provide some of the funding for the plan, and then Brittany and I sat in on the committee for technical assistance. So again, this really sets the stage for the opportunity in Candiota County for people to get out and bike and walk, run. We did a Bike Helmets Day and YMCA Healthy Kids Day, gave out a bunch of helmets. Another fun group I really enjoy, AIM here in the Wilmer area. We help sponsor a walking club. We're going to do a Frisbee golf thing this year with that group. Exercise program called SAIL for older adults in Buffalo Lake. This is a group that's kind of experimental. We thought, what if we bring a bunch of stakeholders together to talk about feeding Renville? So we've had a couple meetings with this group. I think the first one was people kind of learning about what everybody else does. And the second group meeting that we had was started to develop some connections with some of the groups and basically trying to look for ways to be more efficient, maybe avoid duplication of services. So we can report a little back at some point and see how that group evolves. We do a lot of work with Rapid and Candy Ojai. For me, primarily with Rapid, and Brittany with Candy Ojai. Done a bunch of vaping pilot programs, educational events. We do the Educate and Congratulate visits in the counties. And this year we're doing tobacco retailer audits. And ACES. So we are also heavily involved in the ACES Coalition. It is a priority in our joint community health improvement plan. Our first goal in 2022 was just to educate the community about ACEs because frankly, I didn't know about ACEs, it's the science behind it. I mean, everybody kind of realized that, abuse and neglect, a parent in jail, somebody with a drinking, those are all bad things. But the science of ACEs is when these things add up, that's when kids get way behind on things and things get more difficult in life. So we felt like we had to educate people. We did the calendar. Some of you may remember that. It was pretty well received. We did about 10,000 copies, got a lot of media attention. So our next goal was to have more ACEs trainers. We have some trainers that will go out and visit with the schools at the beginning of the year, do trauma-informed type of trainings. And also working with PACT, you'll be seeing in a month the Youth Connections magazine. A lot of great articles that are well written in there, and there are a lot of local content and a lot of messaging, ACEs messaging in that as well. And Brittany just did this one. This was, Jody, you're here. Was this at the fair that she did?
We did receive the text, yes.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was going blind on this one.
We'll have the rest meeting.
Okay. So that was it. Sorry, that was fast.
No problem. It's any comments or questions for Jeff? Mr. Philippe, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Berg.
Thank you for the presentation. You've given presentations to us before, and I appreciate this update very much. The amount of collaboration that you do is just fantastic, and working with, public health, PAC4, Candiota County, and all the other areas and programs that you're involved in. It does make a difference. I'm sure it does in people's lives, and I want to say thank you for all you're doing.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Corky.
Other comments? I too would just say thank you to you and thank you for Caroline to bring this forward because we've heard about SHIP before, some of us many, many times, and some of us not as often. But as often as we hear about it and other things, we are able to not only refresh ourselves in our knowledge of it, but it also helps to educate the public of the resources that are available. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm on the twilight of my working career, so it's nice to have,
What does that mean?
I got a year to work before I retire. Thinking about running for county commissioner. But no, it's nice as I kind of wind down my working career, have some meaningful work, because it is fun going out and doing these projects, connecting people up and seeing the outcome of it. So yeah, we're trying to do better at branding ourselves because we've been people kind of hear about us. So we're trying to do better about letting people know what we do, so.
Well, thank you again. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, can you speak a little bit a lot of what you're doing revolves around food and specifically healthy food. Michael Pollan says that not all that we eat is actually food, but edible food-like substances. There's a lot of emphasis on healthy foods, but inherent in that is access. Can you speak to some of the barriers to accessing healthy food that people in our area might face?
Sure. And Renville County, there is some what's called food deserts. There's people that have, they got maybe a Casey's to go to, but the closest grocery store is 30 miles or 40 miles round trip for some people. We have a little bit of pockets around here. We're actually working with New London Food Co-op to kind of get that up and rolling as well. But yeah, access to healthy foods has been a big thing, especially with our food shelves. It's been nice to see that emphasis on healthy eating because honestly, I don't know, when my kids did fundraiser for food shelves, you would go in and would pick out everything out of the cabinet, and there'd be, macaroni and cheese and, rice and fillers and things like that. But so it's kind of a health equity thing too, to have people that need those services to be able to access some of those fresh fruits and vegetables.
Well, I know that when the farmers markets are going full bore, I'm out there every Saturday looking for whatever it is that I can bring home to try to make something healthy. I'm trying to watch my figure, so to speak. But the access is so key, and I want to just applaud you for all of your efforts, you and Brittany and the entire organization, for the efforts that you're doing in this area. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a good day. So, Karen Anderson is up next with a resolution to authorize the auditor treasurer to make electronic fund transfers.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good morning. Karen Anderson, Candiota County Chief Financial Officer. And part of our audit with Clifton Larson Allen, there is a resolution that we actually need approval every year for it, for the board to authorize the auditor treasurer's office to make payments using electronic funds transfer. We pay our payroll, payables, tax settlements, many payments that way. It's a better way that people have the money sooner. There's no chance of checks getting lost. So what I'm asking for today is approval to pass this resolution.
So you've heard the request from Ms. Anderson regarding Resolution 2024-3. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I will move on Resolution 2024-3.
Commissioner Gardner moves on 2024-3. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any discussion?
I-
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, so Commissioner Berg brought up a good point earlier today. Are we taking measures that making sure that everything is secure, that like passwords are changed maybe on a regular basis, or that we have good passwords? And as we're hearing, where
We are
where
trying.
some things get hacked in, and
Yes.
and we just want to make sure that it doesn't happen here.
No, we do try to have safeguards in place. There are only specific people that have authorization to make the transfers. Their passwords, RSA codes that need to be in place.
Okay. All
Very
right,
good.
thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen, I know that there's been at least one county in Minnesota who's, been the victim of fraud in areas like this where they've supposedly a vendor called in, said, hey, I've changed my banking information, send it to this. And just, I'm sure this is done, but so that the public knows there are appropriate checks and balances so that something like that would be vetted first and confirmed with the actual vendor before going forward.
Yes, we do confirm them. I have gotten a couple of emails that, you could tell right away the email address looked strange. One was a former commissioner wanting to change where his paycheck goes. Well, as a former commissioner, he no longer gets one. There was first flag.
That'd be a neat trick.
Yeah.
So, these things are happening, but we are watching, checking with vendors that we make sure that it is a legitimate request.
And this likely speaks to the pretty robust training program that our IT department has for all of our employees as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, we work closely with IT on that.
Commissioner Berg.
Well, I think you pretty well answered or had the same questions I had. Other than what I understand is one of the biggest areas of fraud that can take place, and it can be big dollars. And
Yes.
and I think we all probably heard about that one neighboring county that it happened, and it wasn't like, oh, it's so obvious this has happened. It just happened because it was done so well, and it gets, once you push that button to send, the money's gone. You can't
Yeah.
get it back. So it's just a big thing. But I know you're aware of it. I just wanted to review that with you, and I appreciate what you're doing.
No, reviewing those policies are a very good idea.
So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024-3. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Karen.
I'm just gonna have you sign this.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, as long as we got a few seconds here.
Yes, go
Are
ahead.
there many electronic transfers? Like how many do you end up doing on the average? Just roughly. I don't matter, put you on the spot.
Our employees are paid electronically,
Okay.
and I would say it's maybe not quite half of the vendors, but we are
That-
trying
it
to
is-
get more signed up.
Okay. Well, all right. Thank
It's
you.
a lot.
It's a lot. All right.
All right. Next on the agenda, thanks again, Karen. Next on the agenda is the abatement of tax requests. And Val Flor, our county assessor, is going to come forward for that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am Val Savor, County Assessor. I am here with two abatements for taxes for fire damage. The first one is for Jessica Mortensen. Their home in Dovry Township was a complete loss due to fire damage on September 21st. And the house is at 3321 8th Street Northeast in Wilmer. And the reduction in taxes would be $438. What I would need is an approval for these each individually, so the record shows it, so I can keep that in our file.
So is it your recommendation to approve this reduction in taxes?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you heard the assessor's recommendation. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves on, this is parcel number 13-432-0500. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the second one is for Suzanne Vandell, and the home was at 6194 7th Avenue Northwest. The parcel was 310120025. This was also a home that was damaged with complete loss due to fire damage, and that occurred on September 19th. And we're looking at a reduction in taxes of $353.25.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to anybody who might be listening, the reason this proposed reduction is that they did not have access or availability of this property due to the fire. And so we reduced the taxes or proposed reducing the taxes for that reason. You heard staff's recommendation. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I so move that we reduce the taxes to $353.25 on partial 31-012-0025.
Commissioner Berg moves to reduce the taxes on said parcel. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And the last one on our list is for a value reduction, and this is for Laura and Timothy Peterson. And typically, a value reduction like this, I would bring it to you in December when I have errors and corrections made to our assessment after our local board and our county board of appeals and equalization. We are not allowed to change any valuation, and Laura had brought to our attention that we had missed this one. She had called in, and the correction did not get made to her. It actually got corrected in the wrong year. And so we made the correction. It's a value adjustment. She has, what she had stated and verified was that the fireplace and in-floor heat was not in her home, and what it had is what we had pulled it off of a building permit, but it was not put into the home. And so there's a value reduction of $12,100. And we just need an approval. So the value went from $307,200, and it was reduced down to $295,100. And this was on parcel number 29-024-0030. And she lives in Blumkist at 3,210th Avenue Southeast.
You heard the recommendation from staff. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I move that we reduce or make the adjustment in value for parcel number 29-024-0030.
So Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves to accept staff recommendation on the value reduction. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Val, just to clarify, this is something that was supposed to have been on our list last time, and it was inadvertently missed.
Yes.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yep, in December, if we have any errors in our assessment or corrections that we need to put forward, I bring them to you with them in a meeting in December, and she actually called after that. And so this is a correction, and once that meeting has passed, then I have to bring them in on an individual basis to get your approval.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Val.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is setting the date for the County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting. Administrator Baker.
Good morning, Kelsey Baker, County Administrator. I'm asking for approval to set, as the chair said, the Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting for June 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Typically, we have our scheduled board meeting that Tuesday at 9 a.m. I would just throw out the option if you would like to have your regular board meeting at 5 p.m. and then just roll right into the appeal and equalization, or if you want to just keep the 9 a.m. slot, that's totally fine. I just wanted to give that option as well, but we just do need to approve the date for the appeal and equalization meeting.
And we have a window that we have to adhere to.
It needs to be set by February 15th.
Right, and it has to fall in a certain time frame when we do.
By statute, it has to be, yes, in that time frame, and it has to be at 6 p.m.
Okay. So you've heard the administrator's options and offer that we move our board meeting to the evening if we want. A little hard to predict what's on the agenda at this point, but maybe it's an opportunity for others to take part in a board meeting that normally are working at this period. So your thoughts? Nobody has any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I got a few thoughts, yes. It's good to look at options, and that is a nice option to have. I'm just thinking though, it's hard to predict, would an hour be enough time? That's my concern. We want to look at 4:30 instead of 5, but
Correct.
I trust your judgment, so what's your feeling on this?
At the Truth and Taxation meeting, we did do 4:30. So we could do 4:30 June 18th as well, if that works for everyone.
And we do have some latitude on what goes on the agenda. If it's not time sensitive, we can
Yep.
move some things around.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Chair, I'll move, or we don't have a motion yet, right?
No, we need a motion. What we need is a motion when we're done with discussion on the date. Let's go to a consensus first about the board meeting in conjunction with it. We don't need a motion on it, but I see a lot of heads
Well,
going
Mr.
up.
Chair, I don't think, we don't have to set the time yet. We just have to set the date, right?
We have
I
to
mean,
set the date for the Board of Appeal and
Yeah,
Equalization.
and that has to
meeting.
be at 6 o'clock.
Correct.
So, but we don't have to have the regular board meeting time set right now.
No.
Yeah.
No, Commissioner Anderson, I think it's, do we want to have the board meeting
Yeah.
in the evening versus in the morning at our regular hour?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some head nodding going on. Anybody have any objections to that?
No.
How about staff that needs to be at the meeting? Not seeing any objections there either, so let's plan on that. Oh, maybe Mel had an
Oh,
objection.
no, I'm good.
Okay. So let's plan on a board meeting that evening. Now I'll entertain a motion to set the date for the County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting for June 18th at 6 o'clock in the evening.
I will make that motion to set the County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting for the 18th of June from 6 to 7 p.m.
So Commissioner Gardner moves on the setting the time for the Board of Equalization. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And Dwayne Anderson, Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. I'm going to have Administrator Baker do one other item as long as she's standing there about the watershed district. Do you need something from here? What? And then we're going to take a short break before we recess and open a public hearing.
Yeah, so just as Mr. Chair said, the Middle Fork Crow River Watershed District will be looking for a person interested to appoint to serve a 3-year term as a board manager. Interested individuals must live within Candiota County and the jurisdictional boundary of the Middle Fork Watershed District. If you are interested, the public notice will be sent out February 26th. Applications are due to the administration office by March 12th, 2024. And any party that is interested would just must submit a letter of interest.
So I'm not sure there's actually an application, just a letter of interest, I think.
There's no application, just a letter of interest.
Right, okay.
Yep.
So I want to clarify that. All right, so I think we need approval to post that. So I would entertain a motion for approval to post that notice for the opening on the watershed district.
Mr. Chair, also move.
So we have a motion to approve the posting for the watershed district notification. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Berg seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay.
Let's take Corey, how long would it take you?
You're gonna be on there.
I sit on that committee. I can't say.
Okay, we better wait then. We'll take a break until 10 o'clock, at which time we will recess right now, and when we come back, we will conduct the public hearing.
Dooley with Dooley's Natural Gas. Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate you guys giving us the time today to present this project. Dooley's have been in the energy business since 1956, dating back to when my dad began. We've been in the natural gas business since 2012. We commissioned our first natural gas project down in Chippewa County, Clare City, and piped natural gas down there to 5 communities, I believe. And the second project that we had done is we did a natural gas project on the north end of the county. So currently we installed over 300 miles of natural gas pipe since 2012, serving over 2,000 customers, 5 Minnesota counties and 9 communities. The current natural gas system that we have in place has put over $36 million back into the local communities that it serves. And how that's calculated is a differential between natural gas and delivered fuels. So we track that on a monthly basis. And that's how we arrive at that. We're excited about this new project. We've been working on it for quite a few years now, probably north of 3 years. I've got Nate DeLeo and Tim Holcher, co-managers of our natural gas division with me. And at this time, I'd like to ask Nate to come up and give you guys an overview of the project.
Thanks, Mr. Dooley. Welcome, Nate. And you'll get the same instruction from me as everybody else will get to state your name and who you're here to represent.
Understood, I appreciate it. My name is Nate DeLeo. I'm the operations manager for Dooley's Natural Gas. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we'll run through a project overview quick. Some of this has been stated before, but we'll just kind of go through it step by step. We're looking at a 28-mile project located in Chippewa, Swift, and Candy Ohio counties. 28 miles of it is going to be low pressure, a maximum allowable operating pressure of 125 pounds, normal operating pressure of 100 pounds, just like our current distribution systems. That 28 miles is going to connect 4 renewable natural gas processing facilities, and those facilities are going to be located at Meadowstar Dairy, East Dublin, Swinota, and Lawrencetown Dairies. The RNG processing facilities are located at these dairies and are developed and owned and operated by a separate entity, which is Dooley's customer, and that is AMP Americas. The low pressure portion will transport the RNG to a compressor station, and then that compressor station will increase the pressure and inject that gas into Alliance pipeline. And that'll be done through a short, about 100-foot section of pipe. 99% of the project is planned to be installed in road right-of-way, just like our existing facilities. And then Dooley's is going to own a 3-acre parcel located on County Road 3, just south of Murdoch. And that's going to house the compressor station and that 100-foot of high-pressure pipe. I don't know if you can see the screen, but there is an overview map of the proposed system. The blue map is what Dooley's is proposing to build. The red line kind of going kitty corner, that's Alliance's current existing transmission line. And then that yellow circle is the proposed compressor station site. For the high pressure portion, we chose that location for proximity to Alliance transmission pipeline. We've got a purchase agreement in place with the current landowners, and the Alliance pipeline runs through that parcel. It's a farm field now, low, very minimal human and environmental impacts. It's high ground. The closest house is about 800 feet away. For the low pressure portion, there is no direct impact to landowners. We are proposing to run through road right-of-way. With that, there'll be minimal human and environmental impacts as it's been previously disturbed. WSB did do a complete environmental analysis with the route permit portion. There is some focus in the legislature on effectively utilizing existing road rights-of-way. And DNG like Randy said, already operates about 300 miles of pipe in county and township right-of-ways, and we work hard to try to have a positive relationship with those entities. Pipeline design and specifications. Again, the low-pressure portion, 28 miles. Of that 28 miles, about 25 miles of it is going to be 4-inch high-density polyethylene plastic pipe, 2 miles of 2-inch, and then about a mile of 6-inch. And again, the maximum allowable operating pressure is 125. That's what we will pressure test to designate that MAOP, and that's what that line will be good for. The normal operating pressure will be 100 pounds. The high-pressure portion, again, will be located on a duly owned piece of property. It'll be 2 or 3-inch grade B steel pipe and have a maximum allowable operating pressure of 2,000 pounds. In our conversations with Alliance, their normal operating pressure is between 1,500 and 1,700 pounds, so we will compress that natural gas just enough to be able to inject it into their system. Construction overview on the high pressure side. The site will be, the new site will be graded, prepped. There will be a building that will house natural gas compressors. The equipment that will be installed are 2 natural gas compressors that will be electrically driven. And the reason we went with 2 is there's some redundancy and it gives us a little more rangeability. If there's 1 farm producing or 4 farms producing, it just gives us a little more leeway. Since they are electric, there'll be some associated motor controls, and then we are going to have secondary gas quality monitoring equipment just to ensure that we meet Alliance Pipeline's tariffs. Alliance Pipeline, on their end, they will tap their existing line and they're going to install gas measurement equipment to ensure that it's measured properly as it goes into their line. And again, the compressor station will be connected to Alliance by roughly 100 feet of, we're expecting 2-inch, maybe a little bit of 3-inch pipe. The low pressure portion of the construction, majority of that 2, 4, and 6-inch pipe is going to be installed by vibratory plow, much like you see interduct being installed for cables, things like that. There's a knife that goes into the ground and a chute that basically just pulls that pipe in with it. So very small impact. It disturbs approximately 12 inches, and once we're through, there's a little scar that gets compacted back down. Our minimum depth is going to be 30 inches. This type of installation reduces land impacts, installation time. There's no topsoiling. There's no vegetation that has to be removed, so it's pretty non-invasive. What can't be installed by vibratory plow will be installed by HDD, horizontal directional drilling, and that'll be used at wetland boundaries and roads, driveway crossings, and basically, I don't know if you've seen it, basically a rod gets punched under the road, the pipe gets tied onto it and gets pulled back through, and then that'll be tied in to where we vibratory plow. Drain tile is expected in the area. Dooley's, just like any other project, we work with the county ditch inspectors, authorities, and local landowners to identify, avoid, and if necessary, repair drain tile. Again, we're anticipating it, and we look forward to working with everyone to make sure that those drain tiles aren't impacted, and if they are, they get repaired properly. Process overview. Turn it back over to Micah. Thank you for your time.
Before you leave the podium, does the board have any questions at this point? Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, so my concern is the depth. Is that to the top of the pipe or is that to the bottom of the pipe?
That would be to the top of the pipe.
Okay.
That's our typical, that's the minimum. Typically, we like to install it to 3.5 feet to the top of the pipe.
Okay,
That's what a lot of our mains are now.
all right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Thank you, Nate. A lot of this overview is kind of like the one we had before, very good information. I appreciate that, and I noticed all the other groups you have to get approval from. And it will continue despite whatever the board decides as you go on. I do have a question, though. You mentioned something about monitoring equipment. Can you expand on that just a little bit more? Like, how much, how you do that?
Sure.
And where is it located?
Absolutely, thanks for the question. So at each farm, we will have gas monitoring equipment to make sure that the gas quality meets Alliance specifications. They don't want gas in their line that could be corrosive, have bad things in it. So there'll be that equipment at each farm, and then at each farm, we'll have a meter and telemetering equipment to tell us exactly how much that farm is producing. And then there's going to be a small buyback facility where they're going to use some of their produced gas to run their boilers. So we're going to monitor what they're producing and what they're burning. And then on the other end, located south of Murdoch, there'll be that same equipment, basically gas quality measurement, again, to just ensure that it meets gas tariff specs. And then we will, Alliance is going to have a meter there, and we will verify that A, B, C, D equals E, that we're not missing any gas. So we're gonna monitor it, measure it coming in, monitor it, measure it coming out, and just ensure that we're measuring it correctly and that gas isn't going anywhere else. So,
Thank you.
yep. Thanks for the
Commissioner
question.
Gardner first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nate, if we can, please, let's back up a little bit because I don't want to assume. Can you explain, first of all, what renewable natural gas is, how it's sourced, and why this project is being proposed?
Sure. So Dooley's Natural Gas is going to transport that natural gas. So as far as specifics on the processing, I can't speak to that, Mr. Commissioner. It's, the methane is gonna get captured at the digesters, get processed into basically distribution quality gas, and that distribution quality gas is gonna be transported.
And the methane is produced from?
The manure, my understanding, basically the manure gets pumped into a tank. That manure gets heated. I believe some enzymes get put in there, and then the methane basically just bubbles off the top.
So this is a capture project so that this methane just doesn't simply go into the atmosphere?
Absolutely correct.
And I assume that there are other environmental reasons for looking at doing something like this.
I would assume so, but I can't speak to that. I guess.
Okay, and maybe I'll hold any other questions for later. Thank you.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my other question would be, I can't really see the map very good, and how many miles are in Candioi County?
Just over 2.
And that's what size pipe?
That'll be 4-inch.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Did I see a hand go up or?
No.
Okay. I got 2 quick questions. They're almost a yes or no. Are these pipelines going to be public or private?
So we are hopeful that once we have some historic background on what gets produced, how readily it gets produced, how basically if we can count on it. And we are hopeful that in the future we can hook up customers along the way.
Okay.
So
And then you already mentioned that you're going to use existing right-of-ways, and I know in Candioi County we have very little of it. Are you using right-of-ways? Probably not in all situations, or do you go across farm fields too? Because you did mention drain tillage.
Sure. No, it's all going to be road right away, except for where we're on private property on the dairies, and then our own property south of Murdoch. So we've looked at tile maps, and there's county tiles, and we've understood from these meetings that there's private tiles. So we're anticipating to run into that in the road right of ways.
And sometimes they do end up in the road right-of-ways.
Yes.
Any other questions for Nate before we move on to the next presenter? Thank you for the
All right.
information.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, Michael Revelle again. I just provide a little bit of a process overview here. This gets into some of the questions about permitting and the reason that we're before both the PUC and the county boards. So we applied for a route permit for the whole project, the 28 miles of low pressure pipe. and the high-pressure pipe to the commission. The commission said in its acceptance of that order that only the high-pressure portion of the pipe was subject to its routing jurisdiction and to go through with this information book process at the county level. So that's why we're here before you today. Just some history. The commission held public information meetings last week, January 30th and 31st. On the 30th, it was a joint meeting with the Swift County Board of Commissioners to do the same thing that we're doing here, provide information on the project. And then the point of a meeting in this context for the public hearing under Minnesota Statute 216G03-05 are two things. We're supposed to cover information about the pipeline specifications and characteristics, which is what we've talked about, kind of the route of the pipe, the size, what it's designed to carry, the pressure, things like that. And then secondly, the legal requirements which must be met in acquiring easements and in constructing and operating the pipeline. So I'll talk about that on the next slide briefly. And then we can skip this last point here. So these are the high-level permits and consultations that are required for this project. Obviously, a commission route permit for the high-pressure portion. In all of the counties in which we'll operate, there'll be utility permits required, specifically here in Candy, Ojai. That's the mechanism by which we gain access into and comply with the county's requirements for use of the road right-of-way. Under Minnesota Statute 216G07, there's also an inspection fee and process. So the fee would be paid by dualies to the county, and that fee is designed to facilitate an inspection process by the county. The county can designate an inspector. Often it's the county engineer, given the overlap in terms of specialization. And that's designed to make sure that the pipe is installed to Commissioner Anderson's question about the depth of burial. It's designed to make sure that that pipe is buried in compliance with the utility permit to make sure we get the minimum depth of cover that's required under the utility permits or any other ordinances that the county has along those lines. We've also consulted with St. John Township about use of its right-of-way. And then you'll see these several state permits and consultations here. And again, several state agency representatives are joining us on the meeting today, but there are utility crossing licenses. We don't anticipate any will be needed here in Candy, Ojai County, but there's at least one that will be in Swift County. That's with the Department of Natural Resources. The Minnesota Office of Pipeline Safety, MinOps, they have jurisdiction for testing and inspection related to making sure that the pipeline is constructed and operated in a safe manner. So we'll be subject to that. The Department of Transportation, MnDOT, we will have to get a utility crossing permit anytime we cross a state highway. That's likely only going to be in Swift based on our current designs. And then the Department of Agriculture reviews an agricultural impact mitigation plan. That's specific to the Public Utilities Commission route permit, but we developed one for the entirety of this project before we knew that we would not be before the commission for that. So that same agricultural impact mitigation plan, our plans to avoid impacts to agricultural land, will be implemented across the project. And then last is a construction stormwater permit from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. That is required because of the amount of ground over the span of the project that will disturb. And so we'll be obtaining I'll briefly cover the schedule and install time, and then the remainder of the time is available for questions from the commissioners or the public. So field surveys are scheduled 3 to 4 weeks prior to construction, and Dooley's is anticipating construction beginning in spring of 2024 here. If I understand correctly, the install time is about a mile of pipeline every 3 days using that, the knifing and the HDD technology, and then the in-service date is planned for August of 2024 at the end of the summer. And I'll just note, the Dooley's team is here today, Randy Dooley, Nate DeLeo, who is presented, and also Tim Hulscher, and then also Lucas Wandry from WSB. WSB has been our environmental and permitting consultant on this project. Lucas is here. He's the one that's provided these blow-up maps, and we also have printouts of the slide deck should commissioners or members of the public want that. And again, my name is Mike Rebell. So thanks again for your time today, and we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Micah, Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be for anyone who can answer it. I heard it said that the monitoring equipment will be ensuring the quality of the renewable natural gas going into the pipeline. I assume that it's a well-vetted process, but is there ever time when you're not able to use that renewable natural gas? And if so, then what happens to that gas that is not found suitable? What happens to it at that point in time? Is it simply flared off, or what happens to it?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Great question. I'll let the technical side of Dooley's team answer that.
Thank you for the question. Tim Holscher, Dooley's Natural Gas. So at the farm sites where the digesters are in the processing facility, that gas quality monitoring equipment will monitor it and divert it to a flare should it go out of spec. So there should never be any non-spec gas that gets into the pipeline system. It should all be diverted at each farm should it go out of spec.
So, and when it's flared off, of course, then that product enters the atmosphere as, I assume, CO2, yes?
Yeah, I guess I'm not familiar with the permitting process for the flaring at the farm. That's the customer's responsibility.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you for the question.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just a question. This is fairly new to me, and maybe it's fairly new to you. Is this kind of a system, is this more common other places in Minnesota and or in our region? Is this unique? Because I really like the idea that you're trying to capture the methane and be environmentally friendly with what's happening there.
Right. Randy Dooley, thanks for the question, Commissioner Berg. We are in the process of, we've been working on two other projects, one down in Iowa, which is going to be a biogas project as well, and then one further north of here, which is a biogas project. There is one in Stevens County right now that's been, I believe they commissioned that about 5 to 6 years ago. And that one's been operating very well, staying within the gas gas spec. And so, I mean, it isn't super new, but I mean, yeah, there's more and more, there's a bigger and bigger footprint of it coming. And then I would answer Commissioner Gardner's question on some of the benefits for the biogas. It reduces the carbon footprint and increases the green energy space. So it does come with some benefits for that.
I have a couple of questions. One that was mentioned of the 100 pounds of pressure gas line. How does that compare to the gas lines that come into our homes or businesses or?
Currently, our current system of 300 miles does not exceed 100 pounds of pressure. The pressure coming into your homes is about 2 pounds. So 2 pounds of pressure going into residential or commercial for use, commercial or residential use.
I forgot my other question. But I would try to answer Commissioner Berg's. When I was first beginning dairy heifer raising, which I did for 20 years, my very first customer in the custom dairy heifer business was the Habenschild family over at Princeton. You guys maybe don't even know this, but they had probably the first methane digester in the state of Minnesota. And it's a very complex process. It's like feeding a gut. It needs to have the right balance of, and I'm a layperson too, but the Habenschields really worked hard at that process. So it was interesting for me to be a part of that. So
Yeah, and as Nate stated, the manure's pumped into a big pit, heated up. So I mean, they'll be burning a fair amount of their own gas production to heat the manure and extract the methane off it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Randy, do you see that you're going to get any other dairies in the future to do this, or is this just is this kind of as big of an area as you're going to get for right now?
Our portion of the project is strictly to transport the methane gas, the biogas through pipe. There has been some projects out there that are looking at trucking it. Trucking it comes with it's a safety issue, of course. You've got that many more trucks on the road transporting hazardous material, flammable material. So the pipeline is definitely the way to go. And yeah, I believe we'll be looking at some more projects with it as well.
Thank you. All right, well then, if there are no more questions, we will open up the public comment period. If anybody wish to speak to this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak to this, public hearing? Did we have any, to your knowledge, Administrator Baker, did we have any written comments, emails, letters, or anything else?
No.
All right, I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody else, or two more times, is there anybody else that wishes to speak to comment about this project? Please come forward.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Rick Schmidt Spicer, retired farmer. But I just truly want to support this project. I'm on the fence on green energy with the windmills and everything else, but this one's a good one, so, in my mind.
All right,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak to this project? If not, I will close this public hearing. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, and we're still in recess with our county board meeting. We'll remain in recess a few more minutes so that they can gather up their materials and we can get set up for the next discussion. We'll reconvene the Kansas County Board of Commissioners meeting. For general business, our next item is the advertisement for bids for the New London Water Tower rehabilitation. Corey?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Corey Smith. I'm the director out at Glacial Lakes Sewer and Water District. Today, I'm here before you to request that our New London Water Tower rehab project is to be advertised or sent out for bid. A little bit about the tower. The tower is located next to the high school in the city of New London. It was constructed in 2000 to serve the city of New London and their residents. It's 149 feet tall, and when the tower is full, it's 250,000 gallons of drinking water. The estimate for this project is $607,780. That is shown in the attached budget that you should all have received. To finance this project, we will be using $445,000 of our unencumbered bond that we have left and have to use up, and the remaining will be from the Glacial Lakes reserves. And just keep in mind that Glacial Lakes is an enterprise fund, and this project is paid by our users of the system. So with that, we'll go over a little bit what the project consists of. If you, in your packet, you have a statement of estimated quantities. This lists out what all the contractors will be bidding on, all the different bid items. There's 29 of them. I'm not going to go through them all. I'll just touch on some of the bigger ones. Number 6, complete sandblast and recondition of the tower, the interior wet. So that's the inside of the water tower up on top. That's where the drinking water sits. They will be basically sandblasting it, fixing any welds if they have to, recaulking and painting it. Number 7 on there, complete sandblasting and reconditioning of the tower exterior. So basically that's everything outside. It's going to get new paint. If you look at the last page, I showed a picture of the current tower. As you can see, there's 2 horizontal lines, and then City of New London is written on there. We will be bringing it back to that condition. We are adding about the bottom 1/3 of the bowl on top. We will be painting that a darker color. And the reason for that is just to kind of hide or mask the dirt and stuff that collects up there, as you can kind of tell in that picture. We move to number 8 on there, partial removal and spot repair, sandblasting. That's the interior dry. So that's on the inside. Again, we don't have to do the complete rehab of that because it's not exposed to the sunlight. It's not exposed to the drinking water. Number 9, full curtain containment. So for this project, they will be having a curtain around the whole tower. And the reason for that is when they're sandblasting, since it's in close proximity to the neighboring homes and the school itself, just to kind of contain all the dust and the debris from that. And number 20 on there, provide and install new tank mixer, control panel, and SCADA. We'll be putting a mixer inside the tank, and we do this for a couple of reasons. One is for obviously, when it's winter out, we want to keep the water moving, rolling around so we don't get ice buildup or our tower freezes. And the second reason is for our disinfection byproducts. Now going to the schedule, the rehab will take place from May 25th to August 25th. That's when they'll be actually doing the work. And that is when New London is off for their summer break. During this rehab, the tower will need to be bypassed for that duration. So to do that, we would utilize our high service pumps to provide and pressure relief valves throughout the system to provide pressure and water to the residents of New London. On January 22nd, the Glacial Lakes Commission recommended forwarding the New London Tower rehab bid advertisement to the county board for consideration. And with that, it is staff's and Glacial Lakes Commission's recommendation that the county board authorizes the New London Tower rehab project to be advertised for bid.
So you've heard Mr. Smith's recommendation for advertising for bids. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to put it out for bids.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves to go to bids for the water tower at New London. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further discussion or questions? Well, thank you very much.
And I do have one more comment, just as a reminder, since I'm up here, this Thursday, the 8th, we will be having our Phase 2 bid opening. I did send invites out yesterday. If you guys are available, you guys can go ahead and jump on that. So that's
And
Thursday.
that's available online.
Correct, yep.
I have one question for you before you leave. The history of the water tower, when was it when the New London Water Tower tipped over?
I could not answer you that. That was way before my time.
I think it was before my time too, but somewhere in history, the water tower went over.
I did not know that, actually.
And
so.
one other comment, on a lighter note, a lot lighter note, Rutt or Mr. Bullwinkle, he passed by some of your facilities. I understand some of you seen him, and yeah, you got him well throughout the county and heading north, so good job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Vote on the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Attorney Baker. So we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next up is the Resolution 2024-4, support for a regional park or trail designation for in Greater Minnesota. Administrator Baker.
Good morning, Kelsey Baker, County Administrator. Jennifer Swenson was unable to be here today to request approval, but you have before you the resolution 2024-4 requesting to designate Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center Regional Park. And so this is somewhat of the last step. Jennifer has done many tasks leading up to this, and the last step is for the county board to approve this resolution. It does state in the resolution that the Candy Ohio County would be the lead applicant. And in speaking with Jennifer, this would be more of a joint application, but a city or county has to be designated as the applicant. Therefore, Candy Ohio County will be the designated applicant, but we will work very closely and jointly with Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. We hope to achieve this designation, and then when we move forward, we'll have a continued partnership working with our strategic plans and long-term goals.
So you've heard the explanation and the resolution 2024-4 for designation of regional parks and trails. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to support Resolution 2024-4.
We have a motion to support Resolution 2024-4. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll defer to my friends who serve on the Prairie Woods Learning Center boards and committees, but just for the public, what is the primary rationale for seeking this designation? I assume, like we have Robbins Island, which is a regional park. I assume that there are other funding opportunities that come with such a designation, and whatever else might be pertinent here.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation. Yes to that. It is primarily, it opens up funding opportunities for Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center.
If I may, to answer your question, Commissioner Gardner, it would come, we have the opportunity, no different than Robbins Island, to receive additional funding through the Greater Minnesota Regional Trails and Parks Commission. And so when you designate a regional park, that's the additional funding that you get to enhance the park's opportunities.
And so that's, kind of, no, I just had the same moment you had about 15 minutes ago. It's gone. So if I think of it, I'll ask it in private.
And one thing Jennifer and I spoke about is, and she has been new in this role probably as long as I have, maybe about quite a year. And by doing this, you have to go through a strategic plan and long-term planning session. And so that will be beneficial to Prairie Woods so that we kind of have this track on what we're moving towards and this goal of what we want to do with Prairie Woods.
And I might add that Ms. Swanson has a ton of work in this. I think the application was pushing 100 pages, if I'm not mistaken. So, any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, authorization to advertise for bids for the 16-bed state hospital bed. Mr. Thorso, there you go.
Yep, here today, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrew Thorson, Facilities Director for the county. So the shingles need to be replaced on the Minnesota Specialty Health Systems Hospital, better known as the 16-bed. It was built in 2008. Part of this is from the spring storm of 2022. It's 250 squares, if everybody knows how much that is. The architect's estimate was originally $250,000. He called me yesterday and said, I think maybe you need to jack that up a little bit. The way the wages are coming in on roofing. So he said anywhere from 250 to 350,000. It is, a county building that's leased by the state. So it's a little more complicated for funding that way. There is a reserve fund that the state sticks money into every year. That fund has a total of 203,000 in it. 68,000 of that is insurance money from that storm. So we have the total of 203,000. It's a little bit more complicated also. Once we advertise for bids, which we would advertise tomorrow, start tomorrow, and it would go on the Builders Exchange in the paper. Then we'd have bid openings on the 23rd. And from there, it has to go to the State Board of Review. And then it comes back to the board to, on March 5th. And if you approve it, then it goes back to the state, to the Department of Administration of Real Estate and Construction, where we seek authorization for that 203,000. Also working with the Department of Health on obtaining the funding shortage. Not quite there yet. I guess we will know more by March 5th on the funding sources for that, the other shortage. But otherwise, yeah, I would like to go ahead and advertise for bids starting tomorrow and be back to the board on March 5th.
So you heard staff's recommendation to advertise for bids. Do you have any questions? First of all, let me ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will move to authorize the advertisements of bids for the 16-bed facility.
So we have a motion to advertise for bids for the 16-bed facility. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Berg seconds. I'll open the floor for questions or comments.
Okay.
Mr. Berg.
A couple of questions. I've talked to you recently about this too, but what kind of bids, what kind of shingles are you going to be looking at?
We're going to be doing 30-year asphalt shingles. It got a little complicated, and I did bring an architect on board because there was shingle damage, but there was also damage to existing sheathing from water intrusion. So a lot of swales in between the rafters. So right now, we looked at it and I got his opinion on what's going to be the best. And so the plan is to just tear the shingles off, put another sheet of plywood on, screw that on every 6 inches, and then re-shingle over the top of that with extra flashing, extra felt, and just a better roof than what's on there. It's a pretty poor roof.
May I follow up, Mr.
Yes.
Chair? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. In my conversation with you, I know a little bit about shingles since many of us in this room probably had re-shingling and what's going on in the insurance. And you mentioned about the insurance, and that's going to cover part of it anyway.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding there's different classes of shingles, and probably the 30-year warranty one you're talking about would be what they call a class 3. There's also a class 4, and which is high impact resistance. And a lot of insurance companies are really pushing for that and giving significant rebates yearly up to between $300 and $500 on a roof. It depends upon the size of the roof. Are you looking at being more specific and an option of going to a better quality roof to save money in the long run? Or do we want to look at
I can
just do like
explore
a
that
residential?
quick with the architect, because they wrote the specs for the roof. And, you know, we also had to bring in a structural engineer. Basically, you know, it was to save money, because the cost of ripping off all the plywood and putting new plywood down is a lot more than just screwing new plywood on top. So we had to bring a structural engineer for that to basically attest to that roof will take that weight.
Sure. But,
Yeah, no, I can, I'll.
Yeah,
touch
the
base
question
with
is,
them.
would you explore?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I assume that'd be part of the bids, and, you know, what class of shingle we're
Yeah,
looking.
we can throw that in as, you know, an option real quick.
Thank you.
All right. So can you tell me again, when did the damage occur?
Spring of '22.
And so that plywood damage, that all happened within the last 24 months?
No, it was a poorly constructed roof from day one.
Yeah. And so we're looking at an estimate of 250 to 350,000.
Yep, we're over $1,000 a square.
But we only got $68,000 in insurance.
Well, you get the value of the roof goes down, and they didn't take into account, they weren't covering the plywood.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Any other questions?
I got one
I'm
other
sorry, go
question.
ahead, Commissioner Andrews.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So if I'm clear, the estimated cost is between 250 and 350,000. And then the insurance will cover 68,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, $68,119 is what we received. But I threw that into the reserve fund just for a place for it to go. And so that reserve account has 203,000. So we're going to be short, but the state is looking at making up that difference.
Okay, thank you.
That was going to be my question.
And if they don't, then what? Is it on the taxpayer?
Mr. Chair, then we would have to, come back to the board
Yeah.
and ask to pull money from the reserves from our building.
And then it would be, so the state throws $17,000 in this reserve account every year. So then it would be, well, we're taking $17,000 every year until you pay us back. But I'm hoping that's not the case, you know, because they have work that needs to get done. The fire alarm system needs to be replaced down there shortly. And that's where that funding would have came from, and that's about a $40,000 project. So yeah, it's just overall not a good timing.
And when was the last time we renewed that contract, and is it up for renewal? It feels like we're maybe not covering the costs of ownership there with our rental.
Yeah, I think it was a 10-year contract, so it was 2017. So we have till, 2027.
Yeah.
That it'll be up for renewal. And I know that the manager down there asked that when we do renew that contract, if we renew that contract in 27, that we rewrite it a lot so it's a little bit more black on white on who's responsible for what down there, because it's kind of ambiguous on who's responsible for what.
So just to back up a little bit about the timing of things, and I think Administrator Baker said we have to come back to the board if we do not get the funding from the state. I think our experience is the state doesn't move very fast, so.
That's why I've been working on this since 2022.
Okay, so, but the building continues to deteriorate at a more rapid pace the
Oh, yeah.
longer we wait to do it. So, do you have a time frame for when we hope to hear back from the state regarding the additional cost? Because we're looking at about up to $150,000 shortfall, worst case scenario, hopefully worst case scenario.
I'm hoping for by March 5th, but I'm not gonna assure that that's gonna happen.
Okay. So today, all we're doing is advertising for bids. That's the question on the table. So any other questions or comments? Thanks for the information. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Odens.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mel Odens, Public Works Director for Candioi County. In front of you and in your packet, there was a consideration for a federal and state lobbyist professional services agreement. You may recall, over many years, the county and city and others within Candioi County have used lobbyists. In the last few years, I would say for the last 8 years, we have not. And so Administrator Baker and I, when we had the ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan dollars, and Mr. Chair, you were a strong part of that, we thought maybe we should consider doing some lobbyists. And so we had interviewed 2 different firms, and one of the firms that you have in front of you is the Primacy Strategy Group. And so what we did is we had them put together a 3-year contract because, do a single year every year doesn't, you got to kind of get up to speed. As the chair and I have been out to Washington many times and worked with various firms, it takes more than just, a one-time thing. And so what you have, and then the IIJA, the infrastructure plan, a 4-year federal dollars came to be, and we were fortunate enough to get 4.8 million of that. But on the other hand, we use federal money in my line of work every year. We're just short of $1 million of federal money. So with that, Mr. Chair, it would be our recommendation to, because there is a lot of federal money, there's a lot of opportunities for state money, to consider a 3-year contract with Primacy Strategy Group, or PSG. And I would open it up for questions or discussion on what we've done in the past, or any clarifications on this contract.
So you've heard staff recommendation. You had this packet in your, or this item in your packet. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mel, please explain, it's noted in the financial notes here that $60,000 is designated under the American Rescue Plan to fund the first year. The second and third year, talk about the utilizing partnering agencies and/or county departments. What's being envisioned?
So one of the discussions that the administrator and I had is the city of Wilmer has done lobbying efforts for many years with another firm. And I know that they had expressed some interest on partnering with us, or consideration for partnering with us. No commitment at this time, because quite honestly, we weren't committed to it either.
Right.
But we do know that they have a lot of the same needs, maybe a wider variety of needs. Ours historically has just been public works projects, but there's a lot of things, within the county. And then also the Economic Development Commission, they're very instrumental in lobbying efforts for Highway 23 and industrial park expansion and Wilmer Y and all the things. So those are just 2 of the agencies, I believe, the administrator. I don't know if you had any discussion with anybody else, but there has been some interest when this has been brought up to, if we took the lead, I think would probably be a safe way to say it, that they would, because there's a lot of need and there's a lot of dollars in this day and age. So.
Sure. Thank you.
So I'm remiss, and I should ask for a motion before we had discussion. So I'd open up the floor for a motion to accept staff recommendation to enter into a contract with Primacy Group.
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Berg moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, oh,
Go ahead,
Go.
Commissioner Berg.
I just don't know, sorry, I had to step out of the room. I don't know if Mel mentioned, going with a lobbying firm, I think does increase our chances. And I think, Mr. Chair and Mel have gone to Washington, and I know it's been a lot of staff time on Mel when we set up the meetings, and he schedules all of that. So this will take some of that time and planning off of Mel's plate, if the board decides to approve this contract.
Mr. Chair, well, following up on that though, but you will still be making the trip to Washington DC, just that you would have help in
Right.
organizing that and being more effective, even more effective. And historically, we know you've been very effective. And this is, I think, not only the city, but hearing from other counties, they do similar type of contracting on the federal level for lobbyists. And I think it's an excellent idea. Unfortunately, it's one of those things we have to spend money to save a lot of money. And I think we need to move forward.
Well, as Mel mentioned, I've been involved with this probably for a few years since I started attending transportation flying. In this case, it was probably paid forward because we got a $4.8 million grant for the railroad overpass on the southwest side of Wilmer that I don't believe, and I think Mel would agree with me, we would not have received without the assistance of Primacy Group and the ability they had to make connections for us out in Washington DC, opening doors and making appointments. So.
Yep. I would echo that. Go ahead.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to be clear, this isn't just about roads or anything like that. This is about any opportunities that come before the county under the IIJA
Correct. In fact,
or other sources.
in fact, that was also discussed. You know, we also discussed like historically, because we have been using federal dollars every year for the last 8 to 10 years. It appears that that's the logical one, but on the other hand, I think with funding, you know, there's a whole catalog now of programs out there that, you know, it takes it, and like the administrator said, it takes a lot of staff time to find these opportunities to get the right contacts within the staff out there and then put the schedule together, put all the things together. Does take a lot of work. And I think we just, you know, in my mind, we've been successful. It's worked out very well. I've been a part of this for many years. And I think we don't want to miss an opportunity if it's there. I think that's maybe the biggest thing.
And perhaps one of the ones that we don't talk about as much because Mel is involved with transportation and infrastructure and I too at my policy committee, but the Inflation Reduction Act probably has almost as many opportunities as the Infrastructure Jobs Act. So there's opportunities, and if we don't go after them, you know, 3 years from now, we'll wish we had.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Oden. All right, next.
5 minutes.
Okay. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
We will reconvene the Board of Commissioners meeting. No, we will not reconvene. We will stay adjourned and we'll open it up, the Kaneohe County Drainage Authority. Welcome, Austin.
Morning, Mr. Chair and board members. So I'm here seeking approval for the 2024 annual drainage systems levy and then the Ricky Noonan drainage attorney price increase. So the first thing we'll look at is the levy proposal. If you guys want to open your packet to the first page. So on there, we have all ditch systems listed. We have 76 total accounts for the county. On there, I have the general location of them and what districts belong to you. And then in green, we have the Kaneohe County total benefits. That is the benefit dollar amount that was assigned by viewers when the ditch system was established or after redetermination. And that is what we base our levy percentage on. So in blue, we have the levy percentage that is based on the Kaneohe total benefits to get an amount raised. I just want to point out that all dollars raised for drainage system maintenance is raised by the landowners on the system. And then there's no other taxes that help pay for the maintenance of the ditch system. So from there, we'll go on to, we have the year-end balance. From there, I look at that and I have a much bigger spreadsheet that I include my inspector fees, Lauren's inspector fees for this year since he retired. And then we have a mileage fee and an attorney retainer fee. We also look at any unpaid maintenance or anticipated maintenance. And then we get joint costs from the neighboring counties. And then from there, that's how I get to this percentage that we levied against each ditch system. Any questions before I go through each ditch system?
Any questions for Mr. Hilbrand? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Austin, thank you. I think there was some mention from the auditor or audit firm that there was a question about having negative balances in some of our funds, but that this was not unusual for most rural counties. And I noticed that, for example, the very first one, CD7, that's a small system, I assume, judging by the total benefits.
Yep, and that's a unique one, and I'll go through that. County Ditch 7, JD3, and JD7, they're all in the redetermination of benefits process. And that negative 10,000 balance is actually all redetermination expenses, and that gets carried to the end of the redetermination where it will be assessed for that full amount at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? So I think how we did this in the past is we've all looked through these and we see the differences. And were you planning to go through each one of these individually?
I have about 8 highlighted that I would like to go through.
All right. That's a relief. Just
Yep.
all right. So
Good to
please
go?
proceed.
So we answered County Ditch 7's. I was going to point that one out. We'll move down to County Ditch 64. That's going to be 39 and 40 on your list. Those are both tile. One's a tile system, one's an open ditch system, but they both have lift pumps. We have pretty good maintenance, anticipated maintenance coming for those, or bills that are out there coming for those. And that's why I just wanted to point that one out. And then we'll move down to JD7. That one has a negative $99,000 balance. Again, that's all redetermination expenses, going to be carried through to the end and then assessed with a multi-year assessment. JD11 is number 60 on your list. That one, we did a tile bore right when I first started, and we had enough in the account with what we're going to assess this year. What I didn't anticipate was the joint cost coming from Meeker County. Meeker County had a new inspector that they just hired about 4 weeks ago, and they were vacant when I was there, when we did this bore, so we didn't anticipate their joint cost coming in at about $25,000. That's why that account balance is $45,000 behind. That is the only one that I would like to carry. We would levy about 20,000 and carry 20,000 till next year. JD 18, Swift, Chippewa, and Candy, Ohio. That's number 65. That one redid the dam in Shakopee Creek over there by Shakopee Lake, I guess. And that one we have a large bill coming. So that's why you have such a high assessment there. We're gonna carry that one out one more year after this. And then JD 52. JD 52 was an interesting one. Last year you guys levied 1.6% and it was supposed to be for 84,000. We actually only levied 1.6% for 5,000. We were still using there was a mistake in the auditor's office and we were still using the old benefits. And they have assured me that we will be updating the benefits to the correct amount. And I changed it to 1.25% to raise 65,000. And that is gonna give one landowner a large assessment in the ditch, but I've discussed that with him and should be good to go. And then JD 99, Renville County that one is completely out of the county, the ditch system itself, but we help pay for it because part of the Candy County drains into it. That one, they have levied a lot of joint costs against us, and that is why in the past we haven't levied anything, and this year we're going to be doing 0.4% or 1% for 20,000. And then the last one, I'd like to go back up to JD2. Joint cost estimate from Renville County was 10,000 before. Now I have a joint cost estimate of 35,000 they told me on Friday. He did some more repairs in January. So I'd like to double that one with this approval. So I'd like to change that one to 0.4%. Right now.
What line item is that? Is that?
43.
43, yep.
Thank you.
So, any questions?
So your request is to approve these assessments?
Yep, as is with the one
the amended
change.
one on line 43, JD2.
Yep.
With Renville and Kaneohe County. Well, I'll entertain a motion to accept these assessments.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves. Do I hear a second? The chair will second. We'll open up for discussions or questions or comments. And I would make a comment that, or maybe I'll ask the question. Lauren started us on a sort of a building campaign, if you will, maybe that's not the right term, but to try to build these funds up so that we don't get nicked every year when the auditor comes through. Are you going to maintain that sort of building capacity?
Yes, I would like to maintain
With your
that mentality,
assessments.
yep.
Thank you very much. And we see some of these that are very high, like 10%, but it's a very small ditch. So
Correct.
10% of 15,000 is $1,500, you know.
Yep.
It's not a big amount. So as I look across the board here, Dwayne far and away has got the most impact here with all these ditches. And if you don't have any concerns, I'd be surprised if anybody else does.
I would just say this, it's part of the cost of farming. So.
As you would well know. So we have a motion on the floor and a second to accept these assessments with, tell me again, Austin, the amended amount for JD2.
The amended amount for JD2 is going to be 54,000.
So double what's shown.
Correct, yep, I'm gonna double it to 0.40% at $54,541.64. And that brings the total for the whole ditch fund to $1,337,341.33.
And so our motion did state to accept the amendment, and we have a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And is that a contract for us to consider too?
Yes. So we got updated fees for the Drainage Authority attorney, and they're in your packet there on the third bulletin there. So I would look for a motion to approve those and then keep the drainage retainer at $200 a month.
So you heard staff recommendation for the county ditch attorney representation. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Burt seconds. Any questions or comments?
Um,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, yeah. These are the fees. What were they before, or how much did they increase?
So they across the board increased 5% this year from 2023. Last year, senior attorneys were $395. I also want to point out, I reached out to one other attorney that I know that does drainage. His fees for senior attorneys were $420. Associate attorneys were $340 and paralegals were $250. So I mean, they are the same as the only other one that I know of.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, may I comment? Yes, they've always done a good job with us.
Mhm.
And so we have a good track record and we're used to working with them. And you would be. So, and thank you for stepping up and what you're doing. Appreciate it. You got a good handle of it.
So all in favor of the motion signify by, or did we have, yeah, we had a motion, right?
Yep.
Signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next up on the agenda is the administrator performance evaluation review. So I need to read, do you have the statute close by? I have it here somewhere.
It's in the board packet.
13D.
All right, so the background information for administrator performance evaluation review. Because this is a performance review personnel matter, statute 13D-05 sub D3 for a scheduled annual performance review, which is written in the employment contract of County Administrator Kelsey Baker. This allows for the board to go into closed session, should we have a motion, but the administrator gets a choice of going into closed session or having this review in open session. Do you have a preference?
I would prefer open.
Okay, very good. So then there won't be a need for a motion. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a process here for this performance review. And I will hand one of these to each of the board members. But as I do this and as I speak to it, this is a review of the county administrator. There'll be no public input. There'll be no,
Would you like me to go to the podium?
I'm wherever you wish to be.
Okay, I just didn't know past practice.
I don't think you went to the podium in the past. Whoops, is that the original one with my notes on?
No, there's notes on there.
Yeah. What I'm passing out is some sort of instructions, if you will, or a process for how this is gonna work. So back in about 3 weeks ago, Administrator Baker sent out an evaluation form that we were all to fill out. The evaluation form is one that, for those of us who've been around for a while, we've used it, several years. So we all completed that form, and then the vice chair and I sat down to tabulate the results of the form. We didn't talk about the comments, we just simply tabulated the scoring that was received on there. We did that, we completed that yesterday morning. What I'm gonna ask you to do, you all had your performance review in front of you. So I'm gonna ask you to use that as your guide as you perform your personal evaluation. So let's see. So Attorney Ann Gehring was going to attend this meeting. She's a labor and contract relations attorney specializing in counties and cities and school districts. She was unable to be here today as she is burying her mother as we speak. And so we extend our condolences and thoughts to her. But in the meantime, I tried to do as a thorough job as I could to anticipate any questions that we might have regarding this process. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, and we're going to start with the vice chair, we're going to talk about, you can go through and say as much as or as little as you wish that you put on your form. You can ad lib. We're going to take as much time as we need to go through this process. And then once we're done with this first round, we'll open up the floor for discussion. The administrator has the opportunity to ask us or to make comments. She can either do it by writing comments or writing to us individually, meeting with us individually, or when we're all done with everything, speak publicly here today. So and that will be after we have all completed our final summary. So the first round, you're going to go through and probably use your guide that you had as your evaluation form as your guide. Then when that's completed, we've had discussion, we will then have a summary round where we'll go through and summarize our thoughts and give recommendations. And you are free, Administrator Baker, to stay here at the dais or go wherever you're comfortable. So, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been waiting for this opportunity for some time, and I'm glad we're here. So I want to speak in general about, and Kelsey already has a copy of my assessment, and she's fully aware of it. I have found Kelsey to be setting a new standard for engagement with our staff. I think her leadership is exemplary. I have friends who work for the county, and I've asked their opinion on her leadership. And to a person, they've been thrilled with what they've been able to see. I have her rated very well in leadership. In supervision, there are a couple of different areas that I'm not able to observe. But I find that since she works closely with the HR director, she certainly follows the appropriate protocols when dealing with employee issues that need to be addressed. Under problem solving and decision making, I believe she exercises good judgment. I've observed her to not only offer solutions, but to also allow room for others to engage in brainstorming ideas that may be outside the box. I think we heard an earlier example of that here at this meeting today. She adjusts well to taking in new information and ideas from others. I believe her style elicits conversation as opposed to being a one way, this is the way it is type of model. Under productivity and work organization, this had been a potential area of concern for me when we went through the interview process. That was one of the areas that an assessment had identified she might not be as strong in as others. And this concern has not been borne out for me at all. She's under goals. She's clearly driven by the desire for continuous improvement across the entire county. And my suggestion is that the county board needs to be communicating with her as a trusted partner. She's been clear from the outset under job knowledge and application of skills. She's been clear that her first full year really needed to concentrate on learning about the existing legacy systems within departments and a concentration on building relationships with all staff, not just a chosen few. This has served her well, I believe, as she shifts internal processes and thinking and beliefs to an approach that emphasizes team building and collaboration. Communication is one of those areas that I think Kelsey would self-assess as an area that she is strong in, and I fully agree with that. I've always found her to be open to feedback, especially where the mutual goal is to better understand people, processes, and working toward common end goals. I've never been told I'm out of line if I say something, or that I don't need information beyond that which is required. Now, I tend to be someone who focuses on areas of agreement and collaboration, and that isn't necessarily the way that all people will communicate with her. Under customer focus, I know that she considers her customers to be our staff, first and foremost, and that includes our constituents as well. I believe that her choice to keep regular office hours down at the downtown building is a fine example of her leadership, and it's a valuable tool that helps our staff down there feel valued and appreciative. And at the same time, she is not at all reluctant to have difficult conversations. Her communication and visioning skills, I believe, are her strongest asset. She communicates with passion and zeal, and she creates followership with those who believe in her, and she really has an innate ability to help break down silos and work toward meaningful change and improvement. I think in that area, her skills are simply stellar. My suggestions for improvement are to continue to build collaborations with department leaders and staff, bring forward ideas and challenges, even if the specific audience isn't necessarily ready to hear them. I think it's a great trait among leaders to be looking forward and anticipating issues before they happen. In short, I believe that she's the breath of fresh air that this county needs. Certainly when someone comes in under the circumstances that she did, there are going to be some bumps in the road, particularly with sometimes you have folks that have been accustomed to this is the way we've always done it. And there is sometimes exists internal opposition. But she's committed to ensuring accountability across the entire system. She needs this entire board to commit to working with her. And that's my first round of comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I am going to stop for just a second here because the administrator just reminded me that we did not come out of recess after the meeting as a drainage authority.
You don't want me to repeat all that.
We are live, but he needs to come out of recess from the drainage authority.
We will reconvene the Kennesaw County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Retroactive.
Go
Who would like to go next? Commissioner Berg?
Well, I'll go next. Yes, where do I start? Well, first off, Commissioner Gardner, you had mentioned many strengths of Kelsey Baker, and I think she has a lot of strengths and skills, and I will share those as well. I have some additional ones to add to that. I am a little uncomfortable being as candid as I want to in a performance review because it is open to the public, and I just don't feel real comfortable in saying some things that maybe aren't quite as positive as usual. But these are the tough jobs, I think, as commissioners. We have to share that and be candid as we go forward. I went through there, and there's many positives about Administrator Baker, and I'm very glad we have her in many aspects. But there's some areas I think we really have to work on. And information I'm going to share is I've also talked to Kelsey Baker about this several times, and we talked about some goals already. So my main purpose of sharing this is, and for the public's information too, and why you're going over it, is because of the open meeting law. And I think it's important that each commissioner knows what all the other commissioners are saying, and the commissioners and the board has a discussion. Because with the open meeting law, we would not be able to talk to more than one other person about what's going on and what we thought and what we're working on. So this is an ideal time to do that. So I believe most of the information I'm going to share, and it's not that damaging, but I'm very concerned about it, is that, again, that you're well aware of that. I am just going to jump in and just really share some Kelsey Baker's greatest strengths, and she's very approachable. She's a hard worker. Kelsey Baker returns calls quickly to me. Kelsey Baker can be a good speaker, and she has 5 former years of work experience. That's, I think, important. But I'm going to get back to that issue as well in just a minute. She's assertive. She's self-confident. She's eager to try new things. And I really say she's eager to change things. And we've talked about that as well. But I just like to go back to visit that one reason I voted for Kelsey to be the administrator was because of her experience. And part of that experience, though, this administrator has a very big job. It's somebody we trust and we look at as the expert. And the expert has got to be in many different areas. But one of the biggest areas, and that's what I'm really focusing on today, is the budget and the finances of the county. And as we go forward, I'm really concerned about that experience, and I think there's a lot to learn and a lot to work together on the budget as we go forward. I was at a Prime West meeting just recently and how they went up over the budget, but I think the board owns some ownership in this too, where we're going forward and some of the issues we are having. And I just really want to point out that as we've gone forward through the budget this first year, the procedure, I think we need more time, we need more meetings as we go forward. We talked at the December meeting about having quarterly meetings about the budget and some training on it, so the board totally understands equally, and we're all on the same level of what involves in the budget. And we talked to Administrator Baker about that as well, and hopefully they will come to about, and we talked about possibly next month or at the latest April and have some updates on that. The concerns I'm really sharing with you came in with the board, and I don't want to go back and get into this too much at this point because we're going to be having work sessions on this. But the issue is that we increase staff salaries significantly, and I'm all for that. I am for increasing staff's salaries, and that's as the board was. But we have to do that in a good way. And my concern about is if we increase them that fast, that much, is it sustainable? And I've said that before in December. But we started out in September, and it was brought forward. And as we talked about, this is a position we looked at the county administrator as being the expert, and it puts the budget together, gives us this information, and we move forward with this and make recommendations to us. And this is where I'm really concerned going with recommendations and support, or all the information and cautions we should have. I don't feel we quite have had those. In September, it was brought to the board, and the board raised salaries 5%. They readjusted the step system from 15 steps down to 10, and it got people up to the top of their salaries, and that was so that 5% and that step adjustment was another 3%. So we increased wages 8% in September. And the concern is that the levy is the place where long-term salaries and personnel benefits should go on the levy. We set the levy in September at 4.9%, and that was a recommendation from the administrator. And at that time, we did not get a full fiscal statement as to these increases, and I believe the county administrator didn't have a lot of time to do that. But we also did not get any heads up like, hey, we're going to have to be careful down the road what we do. And I think as a board, I'm going to be asking a lot more questions and a lot more questions going along about the budget. But there we have an 8% increase that should have gone on a levy, and our levy gone up 4.9%. Came December, and as we know, and for the public's information, in September, we had to set the levy what it could be, and we couldn't raise that. So then after that, any increases we have going on, we're going to have to absorb some way. And apparently, it's going to be coming out of reserves. I have a concern about that because things can go backwards really quickly. And it really hit me at our audit, at our last meeting, where the auditor got up and, not knowing what has been taking place, cautioned, when I think I asked him a question, what are some things we should look at for red flags to be aware of as we go forward with our budget next year and audit as well. And he went on, as you all know, advising the board never, because not put levies and benefits, or salaries and benefits not on the levy. And we just did that. But then he was not aware that we actually then passed there in December, and that's where I objected, was recommended to the board that we give union increases for cost of living of 3% for three years, and that's another 9% going forward. So we have that 9%, and actually it's a 3-year agreement, but really it's less than 2 years until that third year really kicks in on a financial thing. So that's another 3%. So really in less than 2 years, we will be giving another 9% to staff. So we have 8 and 9, 17%. And then if we look at longevity increases, the STEP system, and the staff also gets a 4% longevity step until they reach the top. And it used to be less than 4%. And these are numbers, I see you're shaking your head, and I would like to.
That's okay.
Because these are figures I thought you gave me. And so going forward, I would guess it's close to a 9% or 30% increase in salary over this time period that some staff will be getting. And that is significant. And I just wanted the board to be aware of, and it's significant in the sense that our levy is approximately $40 million. And that is what our salary is approximately per staff. So anytime we raise something 1%, and 1% of $40 million is $400,000. And so you take, for example, the 3% that was negotiated and added to this, at this point is not on the levy, and that is going to have to be put on there somewhere along the way. So you go forward, each of these 1% of $400,000 is not just a one-time deal. They go on year after year. So next year, we're going to have to look at already the carryover of increasing the levy, which I think we should have done before. And hindsight is really good. and on Kelsey Baker's behalf, I understand this is a new board to deal with. I'm not sure how you dealt with this and with the previous experience you have. But going forward, this has to be addressed. I'm looking forward to work sessions. I've talked to Kelsey. Let me just add a couple other things. I could go through each item again and how I rated you. And basically, I gave you many meets expectations, but I also gave you some meets expectation or does not meet expectations with a slash in it because of the budgeting thing. This is a major thing. And I think we need a plan. We need a plan how we're going to pay for this. And as a board, we need to sit down and I expect the administrator to come up with that plan and recommendations to us. And that's what I want to do going forward. Now, I've talked to Kelsey, and she's had some good ideas that she shared with me. But my concern is these plan as we go forward, we should have that kind of information. And also, I'm looking at it, that my idea of a county administrator would be somebody that primary job is to represent the board and be as conservative about our costs and expenditures and protect our levy and the taxpayers' dollars as much as possible. And I'm not saying you're not, but as a board, I wish to be alerted to, hey, this can have a major financial impact. You may want to reconsider that. This is the kind of information I want to hear from a county administrator. And I also want to hear the fiscal impact of this. This will be the impact of this. And I think I've probably gone on long enough on many of these things. I will just really add some of the things that I had, and this is going to pretty well sum up what I have. But these are some of the things that we talked about and or that I see that would be helpful going forward. Working with Kelsey Baker is number one. Continue working on understanding the Kansas County budget, including the levy and the impact of using reserves on salaries and benefits. Number two, being more fiscally conservative, alerting the entire board to the financial impacts of possible decisions, provide the financial impact information when available, and inform the entire board if it isn't available, and when the decisions can have a serious financial impact on us. Because, yes, and I don't want to keep going over everything. Number three, encourage and schedule more board work sessions. And we've been asking for that all along. We've been having some, but we were wanting more, and I would like to see that happen. Encourage and scheduling more county department updates to the board, and I think we're heading in that direction. I appreciate the updates today, and I think that's good information for the board to have and good discussions, and there's a great chance to meet some of the staff. And also encourage the county's administrative staff and all employees to feel that the county administrator would encourage the staff to feel comfortable and feel freely in communicating with the board. Other comments I have is I do understand it's very difficult to follow and take charge after the former leader has been in charge for many years. And I do recognize that, and there's a change. And the change of getting used to working with a different set of commissioners as well. And it's a change for the board. I recognize that. I also recognize and wish to share from my previous conversations with you. I did this already, I guess. And I believe you have started working on some of those. I'm looking forward to meeting with you and addressing that we have a plan moving forward when it comes to our financial security as a county. I'm not implying that the sky is falling in at all, but I am implying this is a very serious situation that we have to take control of, so we do not have the problems that the auditor said we could possibly have. So that's my take, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Commissioner Dwayne Anderson?
So I handed in my evaluation. I didn't make a copy of it. But I'll just
Did I
say.
give it back to you?
No.
Yeah, what I
No,
gave you this morning, that envelope.
Oh, is this? No, this is just blank.
No, it's not.
Oh, wait.
Go through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, sorry. I thought it was just, okay. So here it is. Okay, so I, under the ratings definitions, let's see here.
Oh, yeah, I should have done that. I'm gonna stop for just a second
Okay.
because we were asked to, under the ratings, to give a letter E for exceeds expectations, M for meets expectations, D for does not meet expectations, and C for can't assess. There's some things we aren't in the day-to-day basis, we just can't assess them.
Okay, yeah, so I got under leadership exceeds brings new ideas and solutions to administrator and county board. Under encourages and helps others develop their abilities to the full extent possible, I put can't assess. Under facilities, facilitates participant involvement during board meetings and public meetings, I have meets expectations. Under supervision, meets expectations for assigns activities appropriately to subordinate staff. I have can't assess for gives subordinates the authority to do their work and delegate a task appropriately. Meets expectations for deals with conflict in an appropriate manner and follows proper procedures when disciplinary action is required. Meets expectations for performance evaluations in department conducted in a timely manner. Under problem solving and decision making, meets expectations for exercises good judgment. She meets expectations for involves others in making decisions that impact them. She meets expectations for considers the relevance and impact of decisions in terms of departmental and county goals and values. She meets expectations for defines and offers solutions to problems in a timely manner. Under productivity and work organization, I put I can't assess for organizes programs effectively because I'm just not in the day-to-day operations, I guess. She meets expectations for uses time wisely and efficiently. I have meets expectations for is flexible and anticipates changes and is able to adjust to change to meet deadlines and goals. And follows through on commitments. I have meets expectations. I got under goals, Administrator Baker meets expectations for identifies the desired results when planning goals, programs and setting goals. Meets expectations for works well with others in setting goals, achieves goals as set forth by the county board in a timely manner. She meets expectations on that. And then meets expectations for obstacles to goals are communicated to the county board. Under job knowledge and application of skills, meets expectations for demonstrates technical competency to actual work situations or problems. Performs job duties as governed by policies, procedures, rules, regulations, and laws. She meets expectations on that. And meets expectations for stays up to date in professional field, attends seminars, follows legislation, and she meets expectations for employees demonstrate improvement in skills and or knowledge. Under communication, Administrator Baker meets expectations for explains tasks clearly to staff, board members, and public. She meets expectations for chooses content appropriate for participants, for example as public meetings. And then I got does not meet expectations is receptive feedback and constructive criticism from others. And then meets expectations for written communications are courteous, concise, and easily understood. Under customer focus, Administrator Baker meets expectations for genuinely cares about quality of service to others. She meets expectations for welcomes customer feedback and shows diplomacy, respect, and sensitivity in dealing with customers. Meets expectations with problems and complaints are normally resolved in a timely manner. And then, let's see. Under employees' greatest strengths, I put Administrator Baker understands the role of administrator and is good at responding to questions when asked by me and has been both supportive and helpful to the committees I serve on. In what areas can the employee improve? I would like to see Administrator Baker delegate more to departmental heads and allow them to have the flexibility and support they need to effectively run their departments. And I just put that in there because I know that's been some concerns, but I haven't seen anything to argue either way on that, so. And then, under other comments, I have my experience with Administrator Baker has been mostly positive. Whenever I have asked or requested anything, the administrator has exceeded my expectations.
Thank you, Commissioner Dwayne Anderson. Mr. Dale Anderson?
All right, I'm not gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna just jump around. I don't have a lot of big words, so I'm just gonna say it the way it comes out, I guess, but I know Kelsey knows her role as administrator very well. She knows her statutes. If you ask her a question about something, she can refer to a statute in right away without even thinking about it. She listens and is looking for ways to improve our county. I feel she hasn't had the opportunity to know where the county board really wants her to go yet because we have not done a strategic plan and have not given her fair guidance as a board yet. And I think that's a big thing that is our job, and I think it's our problem that we need to solve more than what it's something that she needs to solve. I feel that the employees that are under the county and the people in our community are her number one concern. We have the lowest levy in the area of counties, and yet is very concerned to not pass on the major high levy like some of the counties did when our reserves were as high as they were. And I think that was brought out very strongly when the budget was talked about, that we have high reserves, and Kelsey just felt that it was not fair to pass on that huge levy onto the consumers by when we had them high reserves. She takes time to listen to her staff and comes up with a solution if it's an issue that needs to be dealt with before just saying, I'm going to do it my way. Make sure that the staff feels that they are important and tries to make it a better place for them to work. She knows her job and knows where she needs to be as far as keeping all of her staff in mind. She takes time and walks through her departments and sees what's good, bad, and what could be changed, and comes up with ideas to improve our county. Just one of the things, I guess, that I feel that she does that I really like is that she holds people accountable. If there's something in a department that needs to be dealt with, she makes them, take that responsibility and owe up to it. And I feel that's a good part of a leader, and that's probably the part that doesn't make everybody like a leader all the time, but that's the important thing, is that you need to hold people accountable. I only have one thing, I guess, that I can honestly say that I wish Kelsey maybe would do a little different, and every administrator I would think would have a different perspective on this, but I would like to see her more involved in this meeting. I would like to see her talk a little more maybe and give suggestions a little more, stop us if we're doing something that's stupid and tell us we shouldn't do it that way. But and that's a preference of the person. So I guess I'm not saying it has to be done that way. I'm sorry, but I just feel in the year that I've been on, and I'm a newbie and I'll admit it, but Kelsey's done a good job. Does she have everybody like her? No. Is she ever going to have everybody like her? No. But that's a sign of a good leader, and that's a sign of a good person, is that you're not going to have everybody happy. We have an employee base of 400 people. If 10% of them people don't like Kelsey, she's still doing a good job. And I think that we aren't even close to that. I don't think there's hardly anybody that doesn't like her. So I overall feel she's done an excellent job. I can honestly say I put exceeds performance on about 80% of the things in the review. I just don't really see anything that's not being done well. I will agree with Corky. The budget is a big deal, but we're all learning. This is a new world we live in, and it's a new way of doing a budget. There's a new way of paying people. It really is different than it's been in the past, and it's a hard thing to come in as a new person to do. So I think we can improve that. Totally agree with that. But I think that for the circumstances that we've given Kelsey, I think she's done an excellent job.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. And I get the dubious distinction of going last, but remember, we'll have some discussion and have some follow-up. And, some of the things that I put in my performance review are going to be between you and I. So what I put in here is not available to the public or the press by statute, but it is clearly going to be available to you. But I'll touch on a couple of things. Though, first of all, I want to just say that I agree with what almost everybody has said regarding your energy and your work ethic and working in the community. I think I don't know this for sure, but I assume that many of the people that are here are people that you work with on a regular basis in the community, and so I applaud that. I have a little bit different role than everybody else has because I am the chair, and in a chair during a time of transition. And for me, perhaps you get used to one manager and you have to get used to the next manager, but there are some things that for me are important, and communication is clearly one of them. One of the challenges that any commissioner has, and particularly the chair, is when you read in the paper about an issue that the administrator might have known, but you find out about it in the paper. This is public information, so I'm not worried about saying this, that we are currently a plaintiff in 3 different lawsuits, and 2 of those I read about in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. There may be more, I'm not aware of them, but those things are really difficult for a commissioner when somebody in the public comes up and says, hey, what about that lawsuit, or what about Big Candy East and the archaeological things that are going on out there. The chair and the administrator work together a lot in setting the agenda. The final result of the agenda is, it's nice when feedback is accepted. Like one particular meeting, in fact, it was the last meeting when we were supposed to have the 9-month evaluation, but it was taken off the agenda. There was a couple of report outs there that I said, geez, those are really long reports, our meeting's getting long, can we take them off? And essentially you said no, but I think you have to be a little more receptive to working, whether it's me or whoever is the chair, in organizing the meeting, be able to run that meeting efficiently and getting done in a timely fashion. We have, I'm not going to reiterate the budget issues, but clearly we need to work with staff and with us. We bring a wealth of experience to this process. We're a much bigger county than your previous employment, so it's a much bigger budget by its nature. And we have, I don't see Karen Anderson here anymore, but we have an outstanding chief financial officer who can help us work through that. And I'm really hoping that we can use the talent that we have in all of our departments. I will, in my overall, and I'm going to stop here because I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to do your final kind of summary. No, we're going to have a discussion now if somebody wants to question anybody about what you heard here. So if there's any discussion, any questions, now is the time. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for Kelsey, and I already know the answer. But you work.
Her opportunity to respond, so write the question down and she'll respond when we're all done here, is what was legal advice? But you can ask the question so she's prepared for when her time comes.
I want to say that past practice in this county has been to use reserves to mitigate the impact on the levy. I know that the previous administrator did that. And given that we have been informed that our reserve balances are in most cases at or exceeding what the state auditor thinks we should have, that using some of those reserves, whether it be for wages or for other instances, is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, I understand that you can't do that forever, all right? Nobody's suggesting, at least I don't think we are, that our administrator is a spendthrift who is going to cause the ruination of the county by depleting all of our reserves. No responsible person would do or suggest that. But this is not something that was done in a vacuum. Certainly, Kelsey did not come up with this budget all by herself. Certainly, she worked closely with our chief financial person, Karen Anderson. And I won't put words in anyone's mouth, but I can't believe that for 1 minute that the use of reserves was not discussed between the two of them. Now, it may be that members might wanted to have known more about the source of where the reserves were coming from and why they were being used a particular way. And that's fine, that's valid. but-
Commissioner Gardner, could we go to summarizing your evaluation rather than debating?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
No, we're summarizing our evaluation.
Okay, that's not what I thought you said. I thought you wanted comments.
Oh, you didn't, when I asked if there was discussion, I didn't hear anything, so I said, move on to final summary.
I
stand corrected, go ahead.
I was still on discussion,
Okay,
thank you.
so if you have questions, go ahead.
I will probably have questions later. A couple of things. We have used these reserves in the past. We have resisted, and I saw this participating in every one of the bargaining sessions with our bargaining units, that we strongly resist longevity increases that are being requested by those bargaining units, because it's just not something that we're ready to do. The vote to increase the entire wage scale by 5%. And I'm sure the record will bear me out on this, passed 5-0. The vote to adjust the step scale from 15 to 10 passed 5-0. In each of those instances, we were told what the financial impact, total dollars, was going to be. So I guess I struggle to understand where the assertion is that we were never given fiscal notes. We were responding to a challenging labor market. We were hemorrhaging people. We had a health insurance system that people were not wanting to participate in because it cost so much. In fact, I believe the approval to change that also passed 5-0. And we were given fiscal notes on that as well. So I'm pushing back a little bit on some of this specific criticism while still acknowledging that there is a role for the board to play, and the board must play a larger role in understanding what those fiscal impacts are. I don't have an issue with that. And I think we'll get there, but it's going to require intentional effort on everyone's part to work together and to understand these finances. And that I agree with Corky. That's what I have at this moment.
Thank you. Any response to that? If you don't,
I will just briefly go over this again. There is a place to use reserves, and there's different ways, and I think that's why we have to have more discussion, and I think that's something that's very important about our budget, and go over there and how it actually works, and how much reserves we have, and how much reserves is available to us, and what part of the reserves we cannot even touch, and the perception of reserves. And I think it's good to use reserves in certain things, but I strongly feel, I think, You cannot use reserves for salaries and benefits for an ongoing basis, because that's on there, and from year to year, it gets repeated. And so sooner or later, you have to put it on there. And if you put it off, you just have that bigger levy you're gonna have to put on down the road. And our auditor cautioned us about that. Now, we can use reserves for one-time things, and we have used reserves in the past. You know, we need a new bulldozer, or a new snowplow, or something like that. Good use for the reserves. But we also have to get a look, and as a board, I hear people say that we have where was my note? A surplus reserves or something to that effect. And I guess I'd rather put it forward that maybe we have the ideal amount, but we are using the reserves, and we do have a history doing that. But it's for one-time type of purchases, and I think that's where we have to go forward with that look.
So I'm just going to caution us that we
Yeah.
don't get into
You know,
debate about how to solve the budget.
And that's going to be part of
that
that work session, right? Yes.
Exactly, Commissioner Anderson.
Well, I was just going to say that. I was going to say, so we're going to rate Kelsey's whole review over the budget. Please don't. Let's talk about what she's done in general for a year. I mean, I get that we've all agreed on that, but let's not judge her full performance on a budget. That's not even fair to anybody.
But
I guess one other thing I wanted to say, Roger, and I might be all out of line asking this, but in past reviews that I've done through other organizations, the dialogue between the person in charge and the board should be back and forth. So I'm a little confused that we're not going to let Kelsey have a chance to talk, because to me,
she is going to have a chance to talk.
but she should be able to answer questions, and we should be able to have a dialogue back and forth. We aren't in court here.
I am using the advice.
I don't think that's necessary, though. I think we can have a human
It's guided by
dialogue.
statute, and that gets dangerous when you don't do that. So, I would just respond to Commissioner Gardner. We didn't have those fiscal notes. We didn't get the fiscal notes until I requested from Chief Financial Officer Karen Anderson to run a 2025 and a 2026 budget. So we knew then at that point what the impact was. We only got that close to the date of truth and taxation. So we didn't have them at the time that the budget was set. So I just wanted to correct that. So does anybody have any summary comments you want to make at this point?
I think we said a lot.
Okay, well, I am going to, I wrote down, so I already talked about Kelsey's energy and her continues to be involved, but part of the process for evaluation is to provide guidance for what can be worked on if it is the perception that it isn't there yet. One of the things, and we talked about it a couple of different times, improve the transparency by allowing the board to have full board discussions. And I'm talking about work sessions, and yes, we have not had them in the past, but that doesn't mean we didn't want them. We just didn't have them, but we did get thorough reports from the departments. This morning's example from Health and Human Services was a perfect example of what we used to get, because this is our opportunity to educate ourselves, educate the newest commissioners, and educate the public when we find out what is SHIP and what does SHIP do, what can they do for our county. And especially in human services, there are so many elements. It's such a big department, and we have someone there who is new to human services, for sure. We talked about the budget ad nauseum, I think, pretty much. One of the things we get when we have group discussions and allow for group discussions is we build off of not only the commissioner's experience and ideas, it's happened several times here. Somebody asks a question and it triggers another thought or triggers another question. There's value in that. And when we include the staff, there's even more value in it, because they're the ones that really, they talk about us being, a mile wide and an inch deep, and that's pretty true of commissioners, because there's a lot for us to know. But it's the staff that has the depth of knowledge in those areas, and we should work together. We should continue to work towards creating a culture of trust with the staff and the commissioners. And as elected officials of Kaneohe County, every decision we make, we must ask ourselves, are we upholding our oath of office by carrying out our mandates and obligations to our citizens? And when making a decision, do we ask if that decision is in the best interest of Kaneohe County? This is also true of our administration and our staff. Every time you make a decision or recommendation, is it in the best interest of Kaneohe County? The job description that you have here is to administrate on behalf of the board, not to make decisions on behalf of the board. Make sure the board has all the information they need to make decisions on fiscal and policy concerns. When opportunities or issues arise, bring options and proposals to the full board to do the job that we are elected to do. Set policy and provide oversight and accountability, and I'm glad Commissioner Dale Anderson brought that up, because we are ultimately responsible for the accountability, not only of staff. I don't want to get involved in, staff's accountability, but when we look at, we're this board about this wide, and it narrows down to the stem of a wine glass for the administrator in her position, and then she has to disseminate that down to the base, which is all the employees. And so we have to work together on that. Kelsey should take advantage of the experience, education, and talent of the staff and those of us that have been elected to represent our county. And as the president of the National Association of Counties, Mary Jo McGuire of Ramsey County reminds us all the time, we are stronger together. So I really look forward to working together to deal with existing and any new issues that come up and opportunities. That's all I have. So this is your opportunity to make comments or ask questions of the board. You don't have to, it's your opportunity.
Thank you, commissioners. I took a few notes. If I can step up to the podium.
Sure. Does anybody need a break?
No.
I don't want to break your rhythm.
No, that's fine. Do you want to take a break?
No.
I don't think, Kelsey Baker, County Administrator, thank you for the performance review. This is not something I've ever done in this role as an open session. But I think because of past practice, I felt that it was something that I should try based off my 6-month performance review on August 15th. I'm not going to go into a rebuttal because that's just not who I am. I think if I want to rebuttal any commissioners' comments, that would be something that I would like to do offline, one-on-one. For the majority of the board, I think I do have a strong working relationship with them, and I can clarify most of your concerns and comments, or maybe that's something we've already talked about. But I think the comments that we have here, and we're coming right up upon an hour for my performance review, which somewhat saddens me that we really have gotten to this point, that I have not quite been employed a year. February 15th will be my 1-year employment. Prior to that, I signed the contract for Kaneohe County October 18th, 2022. And I did that 4-month transition, and that was not an easy transition. I wanted to respect the current administrator, Larry Kleindell, on his transition out into retirement. I want to say sometimes I'm being held accountable for the things I had no control of coming into Kaneohe County. Change is hard. Not every person does well with change. I think it has been said that I have a strong opinion. I'll speak my mind. Sometimes she comes in like a bull in a china cabinet. That's very true. I've always been that way. But if you really know me, that's not mean or vindictive. I'm sure I can be mean, but I just am assertive, as one commissioner said. Some department heads and I maybe didn't get off to the right start. I think that is perfectly normal in a transition period. That is not something that I should be kept in the dark on regarding department heads talking to commissioners and not including me. That is something moving forward I would like to work on, that I am kept in the loop on that, as I can work on a better relationship with that department head on moving forward, and we have done so. Like I said, change is hard for everybody. This doesn't mean that we change nothing to keep people comfortable, but rather we get their opinions, we show that we care, just like the travel and per diem policy that was over a decade old, that when I implemented a policy committee, I opened that up to any department head who wanted to sit in on it. I think we have the county attorney and other department heads and 2 commissioners that sit on that policy, and we have long discussions. Normally, our hours are at least a 2-hour long, 2-hour long meeting. And so when we work through these, I shouldn't have to be punished for the decisions that have been made prior to me or that haven't been made. And I'm hoping to increase the communication as we navigate. Can I say I've done everything right my first year? Absolutely not. I am just not that type of person. Is it tough to take criticism when they're coming from a vindictive and mean place? Absolutely. That is not something I ever want to put anybody in an environment of that sort. However, the directives have been for the last 6 months that we want more communication but from the administrator. However, to let department heads be on their own and work. That's somewhat of a contradiction, and I want to just caution you that that is hard to do because I can't communicate to you and do my job fully if I can't communicate with all department heads. So in doing so, I need to increase that communication in order to increase the communication to the full board. My goal also, as some of you have said today, is to have a positive, encouraging culture for employees to feel valued, to feel heard, and to feel appreciated. I brought this up at the September 5th meeting as well, that I want employees to feel heard and valued. That is something that for me somewhat comes naturally. I was raised that you can look in the mirror and you feel valued about who you are as a person. That's something that we will cultivate here once we have a few more years under our belt, that this will just come naturally. I want to acknowledge those that have supported me, encouraged me, and been partners in building us toward being the county we want to be. Since my 6-month review, I have taken much time to humble myself, work on difficult conversations, spend some time with self-reflection, and for a significant amount of time face challenges in doing my job due to this process that was beyond my control. I have tried to seek additional clarification to better the situation and, in short, given my all in this transition and process. In my years as a county administrator and in the last year here, I've always found that no employee is without challenge, including the best employees. I have and want to continue to build strong relationships with many staff and need sometimes to redirect employees because that is part of my job. I've used the communication pattern in this last year, also with the budget, adopted by my predecessor and accepted by this board as a guide for how I have relayed the details regarding the budget to the board. Now, I've talked with a few commissioners on this, that I am looking to do things differently now this next year and maybe change some of that stuff. However, it has been told to me that I have changed too much in my first year, but I would argue that. We have big tasks ahead. Some of those tasks involve collaboration and collective thoughts to continue to better our communities and to change how we deliver the services. I believe I'm capable of doing this job. One thing I ask is that I have support from the full board and moving forward with the changes that might come. I'm not saying I'm going to make a ton of changes. That's just not who I am. But we need to start talking about those changes so that it will be more natural for employees when those changes come. Some goals I have for 2024. For the full board, I would recommend and be a part of that we take a good governance training. This is something that I sit on the Minnesota Association of County Administrators Executive Committee. We've been talking about good governance training for the last 3 years, and I know it has been presented to the AMC board, which we have 2 commissioners on. So good governance training with the board to understand roles and responsibilities. The full board, I would like to, and I have been given approval to do this, to do a strategic planning session with the board, and so that we can define projects and priorities. And I've kind of already explained how that process will be. Within administration and along with the personnel committee that we have created more and is more active since I have come into the county, is analyze our organizational structure, our pay structure, and our FTEs within the county in services of efficiency. I think that is something that should be relooked at every 5 years as an organization this size. Within administration, I would like to relook at the services within the administration department and how we conduct our services. As Commissioner Gardner said, and I think most of you as commissioners do know this about me, my number one customers are our employees. I have said that before. Constituents are also pretty high up there. They're 1A. But 1A for me, or number one, is our customers, or is our employees. Sorry. The budget process, as Commissioner Berg, he and I have had long conversations regarding this. We're going to start, and it's already on my work plan, doing quarterly financial reports. This has not been done in the past. These will be at a public board meeting, not a separate finance committee. It'll be at a public board meeting. Regarding work sessions within the budget, we'll do our first work session in March. I was just at a finance conference last week. That is something that they recommend that you start doing in March, and then we'll do one in August and September and December. We'll have those work sessions. But I would like to caution that work sessions are something that the board should not take any actions at. I think you all know that. But at the September 5th meeting regarding the budget work session, we did take action on the preliminary levy. The other thing that I know I've had conversations on with the chair is our IT and our technology that we have throughout the county. And the IT director and his staff and I have already been working on some technology software and upgrades within departments to improve efficiency and improvement on our day-to-day work. But that is a tough one because it's extremely costly. So in ending, I'm here to do a job, and that's all I ask to do. Sometimes I don't sugarcoat things. I can be blunt, I can be abrasive, but that's just who I am, and it's not meant to be vindictive or mean. But I ask that I just have the support to continue to do my job.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our evaluation, and when we get back to the board, or when Kelsey gets back here, we'll do administrative updates, appointments, calendars, and committees, which I'm going to ask for a little brevity today to cover only the necessaries.
You're no fun.
Oh, I just
You do
saw
those
that.
too.
Yeah, so the first item on the update is that we need to make an appointment. The recommendation is to appoint Larry Mock to the HRA board. Was that your appointment?
Yeah, that was my appointment. So Larry Mock, he's someone from Raymond, and came to my attention several months ago that the HRA board had a vacancy, and I looked around for quite a while and couldn't find anybody we got numbers for or contacts for. They declined, but then Larry Mock came up and he accepted. So he would be my recommendation to appoint to the HRA board at this time.
We need a motion on that, I can't remember. So
I'll move that, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Second, thank you.
So Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves Larry Mock for the HRA board, seconded by Commissioner Gardner. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries. Then we also have, I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Berg, why we have the CCT board discussion item here.
Yes, for your information and for the board information, I did talk about this before with the 18 County Mental Health Consortium that I'm also on, and they meet on the same day, but normally I've been able to do them both, let's put it that way. The way things are changing now that with this 18 county, I'm going to have to be there every meeting every month. So it's going to be really hard for me to attend the CCT board. And I talked to Dwayne Anderson about that, and he understands that. And Dwayne's our new chair, so I think it's under good care as a previous chair a couple of years ago. And I would like to open it up and see if somebody else would be willing to take on the meeting with the CCT, their county transportation. They meet quarterly on second
Oh, boy.
Thursday, right, of every month. But they're going to be having possibly some extra meetings as well. So. was
Yeah, I
wondering
think
if
our
we
next,
would-
I think our next meeting is in March here, so.
And that was a special meeting because we just had one, so, and then it's quarterly after April and on, I believe.
Should have one on it.
So I was, yeah,
So it's the second Friday of the month.
yes, second.
So I think what I'm hearing, you're
Friday,
looking
yes,
for,
not Thursday, Friday, thank you.
Yep, so April 12th at 9 AM.
Yeah,
you're looking for someone who could
Yes,
take your
would
place,
somebody-
fill that role. Does it have to be a commissioner?
Possibly not. I think though that
I don't
it
know.
should be. That's a good question.
The other counties have its commissioners,
Yeah.
so 2 commissioners. So I would assume it is, so.
So,
Anybody?
I can make it
you
work.
see you're leaning forward. I'm taking that as.
Well, I mean,
eagerness.
I might have a conflict now and then, but I mean, looks like it would work, so I could do that.
What
If
is, what?
you're leaning forward, I'm leaning.
Second. Well, and I just kind of wondered, is this a position we need an alternate? I don't know.
I don't know.
We should probably look at the bylaws. But for now, can we tentatively accept?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay,
Thank you, Dale.
so, the chair will move, Commissioner Dale Anderson for a position on the CCT board.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The last thing, and I apologize, I should have brought this up last meeting because we're already a little behind the 8 ball in terms of early bird discount. But next week is the, no, not next week, December, yeah, it is next week.
It's too soon.
You leave December 10th through
February.
February 10th through February 13th for the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference in Washington DC. And so I talked with Kelsey about that ahead of time. She is able to go, I think, you told me. Seems like nobody else really can shoehorn that into their schedule. Or, and in my case, I'm trying to keep my powder dry for Transportation Alliance and the National Association of Counties Annual Conference, so I can only be away so much, so, go
If
ahead.
I can. I would only say if you feel that it's necessary that I go, because this is last minute planning.
It is,
Oh, yeah, I
But
would
if
think
you
that.
feel that it's necessary that I go,
I
can
wouldn't
swing
say
it.
it's necessary, I would say it's important because of the ability to build relationships. But I certainly understand if it's too little too late. You'd have a chance to meet probably the primacy group when you go out there. There'll be plenty of other counties that are represented. And of course, building a relationship with our federal delegation is important, so. But
I think what
we can go offline, you can make a decision on it, you don't have to do it here, we just wanna.
I think what I'll say is I'll look into it. I'll look at flights and see if it's feasible.
And, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, and/or maybe put it on your calendar for next year instead, yeah.
They move it around a little bit, and part of it has to do with when the House and the Senate is in session, and quite frankly, this year, because it's an election year, they get out of town pretty damn quick to go home and campaign, so if some former representative is looking at me acknowledging that's some truth in that, so, yeah, again, we appreciate taking a look at that, so. Unless there's any other business to come before the board, we are adjourned, I think. You're looking at me.
The golf, did you want the golf course?
The what? Oh, no, not, no. We're adjourned.